Who brought a chair to the forest? And why are all my brothers defeated on the floor? No answers, but this hot babe gave the order to kill them all. Musclehead swung hard, but not on my watch, bitch. My fellow man rejoice at my arrival. Enemies alerted. One glare to the side and a barrage of cuts is delivered. Harkin is the name of the G this time. Harkin, I'm sorry. Bro says don't worry, gang. Daddy's here. Damn, bro, I love you, no homo. From behind, a voice echoes. How touching, this bromance of yours. Unfortunately, this friendship is trash. This volumetric endowed opponent is Syl, Hurricane's arch enemy and the Thunder Queen. She wants her ass beaten once more. So, let's do it. Inventory turned on. I'm about to sink my blade deep inside you, Queen, Hurkin says. Baby mama got angry, but Hurkin is laughing. Until, stab. Huh? My bromance co just went deep from behind? HP dropping. Movement restricted. I'm sorry, Hurkin. I'm struggling in the streets. What do you mean, G? This bitch can barely stand, laughing like a hyena at our boy's misery. I'm kicking you out of this game, Hurcan. Oh my god. Why is she so hot though? Low-key, I'd let her put me down like that. But our boy isn't having it. The moment she calls him trash, Hurcan jumps. Blood splatters. And while our boy drowns in blades, this bitch smiles once again. Hurcan tries to understand, asking why, but they're just begging for him to die already since the whole group is about to gain millions from his end. Bro was literally traded for a bag, and his face shows it clearly. He never expected this from his own brothers. You have died. He jolts awake, breathing heavy and shouts, I lost everything. Some say Warlord is just a game, but in this society, it's completely different. This was the only way a guy like Hurcan could turn his life around and make some racks after being born with the worst cards possible. But in the end, he was betrayed by his real-life friends, and with his character dead, a comeback this late in the game is impossible. It's over, so he runs through the streets. I know where those bastards live. I did everything for them, and now they don't even answer my calls? Red sign, big tire, flashbang. You know what's coming? Boom. Bro got hit by a trash truck. That shouldn't even be allowed to happen to a citizen for real. But then, bling. Hurcan, welcome to the tutorial. Why is the tutorial mob the final boss? People are shouting. The boss is going crazy. Bloodied bodies all over the floor. But Hurcan slowly gets up and grabs a sword. One step. Then he accelerates toward the boss. The monster's arm whips forward, but it barely grazes him. Flash of light. Multiple cuts. The boss falls like nothing. The dudes freeze for a second. Then they look at each other as if they had the same idea. Ayo bro, wanna team up? Hurcan's been there before. So the answer is, blood. I'm soloing this shit until I get that bitch. Damn, but she bad though. VR store. This reminded him that at the start of his journey he had no choice but to play there, 'cause he was broke. Our hero was blown away. This was really the past. The young guy realized he had to hustle if that was the case. As he zoomed through the crowd, thinking about how he was a 5-year vet in a 10-month-old game, and that if he played it smart, Jaehyun's revenge would finally happen. So our hero started yelling as he handed over his credit card while ordering the V-gear. The confused receptionist started processing the purchase, but just as our super hyped hero began planning his next move, the lady told him he didn't have enough cash for the buy, leaving the gamer totally floored. Then he remembered that being broke was why he only played in VR stores to begin with. The main dude started freaking out, wondering how to get the cash, when suddenly a virtual voice talking about hesitation startled him. It was the Thunder Queen, chatting about how the strongest feel no fear and how being decisive is key in battle. Those were the words of the game's top model, Syl, as this was an ad for the epic game. With that, our hero started thinking quietly, thinking about how the Thunder Queen messed up his life, which made him decide. The hero realized he couldn't afford to hesitate. Later on, in our hero's apartment, a shiny new V-gear device showed up. With that done, the installer bounced. To get the cash, Jaehyun had no choice but to hit up a same-day loan service that helped Warlord's players with a tiny interest rate. A few hours earlier, the guy happily agreed to lend our hero 10 million won, but he had a few strings attached as he slammed his knife down between the young dude's fingers. The loaner warned Jaehyun he'd be in trouble if he didn't pay back on time. Remembering this sent shivers down the young dude's spine. Yet our hero knew it didn't really matter. The protagonist was all set to use whatever it took to get his epic revenge. Thinking about his enemy's face, the gamer jumped into the game. Boom! Hurcan was back in Warlord. Our hero was trying to remember the name of the presence that was about to show up when an angelic voice congratulated him for finishing the tutorial. A celestial blonde maiden appeared out of nowhere. The one our hero was waiting for was Aradine, here to help him pick a class. So, with that, our hero had to choose his basic in-game role. The maiden explained that the skills he'd develop in his basic class would shape his advanced class later on. First up was Warrior, perfect for action fans, all about using melee weapons to own the front lines. Hurcan decided to skip his old class, knowing solo leveling would get tricky later, even with his skills. He didn't even hesitate to ditch the priest class, since it was all about supporting others. Seeing that his main gig would be looking after others, the NPC was left with one choice. And so, she wished our hero a killer journey, as her golden strings wrapped around him, marking his class choice and transfer to its special tower. Boom, our hero popped up in a mystical library, greeted by an old dude chilling on a book. Gloko, the mage class NPC, introduced himself to our hero. The old guy didn't even finish his question before the young one declared he wanted to learn dark magic. And then, silence. The hard-of-hearing mage thought our hero meant arc magic, but our hero was all about the dark arts. Gloko tried to warn him about the dangers of this powerful but risky magic, but our hero didn't care. He was all in for dark magic, fully aware of its side effects. The old man started shaking as our hero thought about what he wanted. Suddenly the mage ripped off his own face, revealing an undead skeleton, exactly what Hurkan was after. Gloko mentioned no newbie had picked this class in ages, before asking the young man to put his hand on the skill book. But just as the skeleton tried to warn our hero that this class needed a strong heart, Jaehyun had already slapped his hand on the cursed book. Determined to wrap up the initiation ASAP, he assured the NPC his heart was anything but weak. This made the skeleton crack up. Finally, someone interesting had shown up. With that, darkness started to swallow the protagonist as he remembered the viral video from his past life, where a necromancer soloed a raid. Our hero, now a necromancer with the skill Bone Shard and the title of Clueless Necromancer, knew dark magic was his jam. With that, Hurkan used his shiny new skill, forming a tiny skull in his hand. He then tossed it on the ground, summoning a magical skeleton warrior. Our hero was all in on being a necromancer in his second life. But just as he was about to hit the training dungeon for some XP, the warrior's skull dropped. Both were left speechless, and our hero was totally confused. The gate swung open, and he stepped in. Hurkan entered the newbie training dungeon. The confused hero checked his status window, wondering why skeletons were so weak in his first life. The skill Bone Shard had an F-rank proficiency, letting him summon one skeleton servant. Our hero thought he should level up fast to refine his skill, when he suddenly heard beasts behind him. The young man was stoked to see the Coal Wolf training monster show up. So, our hero summoned his skeleton, as these speedy beasts were perfect for combat tests. The bone was launched at the Coal Wolves and exploded on impact. Just like that, the skeleton servant formed. The creature took its fighting stance, sensing the hostile units. This spooky look made the monsters shake, and so, Hurkan ordered their takedown. With that, the skeleton charged at the Coal Wolves. But just as our hero thought the performance was good enough for a quick level up, the beasts rushed his servant and tore it to pieces. To our hero's shock, as the skull landed at his feet and started to cry, the dude was totally shook. Mind blown, he popped open the skill window. The system said skeletons have this epic learning system to level up their fight game, and they could be set to attack, defense, or special action mode. This was a relief for our guy, who figured he messed up by not picking a mode, so he went with defense. And boom, the summon's eyes lit up. But when it was still getting owned by the wolves, our dude freaked and switched to special action mode. The wolves found it hilarious as the skeleton started busting moves. Ignoring the mage's heads up got our guy in a sticky spot. He was getting ticked off. Since an account could only be wiped 3 months after it was made, and with his debt due next month, he was ready to hug a moving truck again. Hurkan was super annoyed, feeling like his luck had flipped, and not in a good way. To make it worse, the summon was a total flop, according to him. But just as he told the skeleton to chill, wondering how the necromancer from his past life got so OP with this stuff, he had a lightbulb moment. The skill window said the summon had this cool learning mechanic to boost its combat skills. And then he realized that his summon, Boney, watching him take down the beasts, meant it was picking up his fight moves. Our dude cracked a grin. He handed the skeleton a weapon, and told it was lucky to serve him since he was a past life genius who turned his whole guild into pros. Boney got curious as Hurkan said there was one golden rule in combat, and that was dodging was key as he charged at the skeleton. With that, the skeleton got smacked. The summoner kept telling it to get back up. Boney was struggling with this boot camp, as his master kept uppercutting, launching him into the wall. Hurkan told the summon to dodge and counter at the right time instead of just taking the hit. Boney nodded like, "Got it," and the skeleton got ready again. Then, 2 coal wolves rushed at the bony fighter. The skeleton dodged the first wolf's bite, then smacked it and hit the second one. Just like that, the skeleton took down its first 2 monsters. It looked at its master with sparkly eyes, hoping for a good job, but the necromancer tried to play it cool. But in the end, he couldn't help but hype it up. With that, the skill level went up. Hurkan then gave the skeleton props for its awesome moves. Later that day, in Figus Castle in the newbie village, The hero roamed the streets packed with guild recruiters, thinking how Skelly would soon solo dungeons. But just as he was plotting his next move, he bumped into someone. Suddenly, he got yanked. A bully, who looked like a total noob, said you should say sorry after bumping into someone, while his squad hyped him up. As they kept yapping, our hero plotted their quick takedown to save his time. But just as the bully was about to throw a punch, the unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, the punch got blocked by a super tall swordsman, who told the chubby dude he couldn't just hit people for fun. And when asked if he was with our hero, the guy said, nope. Meanwhile, Hurkan was shook, as this surprise hero was an old buddy. His muscles and funky outfit were a dead giveaway. This was none other than Metador Shev, the top warrior from our hero's past life. But just as the young dude was about to ask the tall guy why he was there, the bully spat on the ground trying to act tough, and told Metador Chev to back off since he had no reason to butt in, claiming he was the victim. As the chubby dude said, evil gets evil, Metador Chev unleashed his epic aura that totally freaked out the bully and his crew. The top player then said since his hand got punched, it was his right to hit back. At this point, the goon realized the guy was Matador Chev. The dude in the weird getup who leads the Red Bulls, one of the top guilds, was actually Matador Killer Chev, the battle maniac. This left the bully totally confused, but then the battle freak grabbed him by the shoulder and asked if evil should really be paid back with evil. Fear totally took over the chubby dude's heart. Just like that, he and his sidekick bolted out of there. The top-ranking player was all, glad we didn't have to throw hands, but everyone thought it was funny hearing that from someone who looked ready to throw down. Matador Chev then checked on our hero, but to his surprise, Hurkan shrugged off his hand, saying he'd handle things himself next time. With that, the main dude bounced, leaving the battle freak totally puzzled, who was like, dude, where's the love? Meanwhile, Jaehyun was speedwalking like a boss, super annoyed, thinking about how the top player totally owned him for a second. And so, for their next showdown, our ticked-off hero vowed to get way stronger than he was now. Later, in a cave lit up by dungeons, Hurkan was still thinking about the huge gap between him and Matador Chev. Seeing how the guy was on par with the Thunder Queen, our hero knew he had to level up to get his revenge. Suddenly, a monster jumped at Hurkan, but Skelly swooped in like a hero and took it down. The bony warrior leveled up after taking out the coal tiger. He turned to his master with hopeful eyes, but got a rant about how long it took to hit level 10. This totally crushed Skelly. With that, our hero hit level 10, shaking off his newbie status and stopping monsters from spawning in the beginner dungeon. Hurkan finally got the item he'd been waiting for as the system processed his reward. Just like that, he snagged the War Watch, a super cool gadget for checking messages, stats, quests, maps, and inventory. Thinking he hadn't used one in ages, he checked his stats and got super annoyed seeing they were reset. The system then asked him to use his 50 skill points on magic, intellect, power, or durability. Hurkan took this seriously, and even though it made sense to boost magic and intellect as a dark mage, he dumped all his points into strength. Just like that, his strength stat shot up by 50 points. Hurkan was stoked to feel the power flowing through him, while Skelly was totally bummed. This sudden mood swing caught the summoner's eye, who told Skelly he'd stay a necromancer and did it for learning purposes. Hurkan said boosting a mage's basic stats wasn't a big deal and told Skelly he trusted him with his life, so he wanted to teach him his best moves. The necromancer then asked the touched undead to focus on training. Hurkan then shared he knew other ways to boost weak stats. Later, at the Figus Castle branch of the Monster Hunting Association, a new quest popped up. Our hero walked past a bunch of obvious newbies, all eager to grab the quest even though they were kinda lame this time of year. Hurkan went up to a guy and asked for the quest list. The NPC, who was chill, explained only impossible missions or ones with lame rewards were left. The protagonist quickly saw most missions were pointless. But Hurkan wasn't any better. Just like that, he snagged his secret weapon. He found a low-level monster hunting mission called Cave of Mount Byman that would give him 10 gold. The guy questioned the young dude's choice, seeing the tiny reward, but our hero took the mission anyway. Even though it seemed basic, our hero knew finishing this quest before level 15 would earn him the ultra-rare Rising Star title. The cool thing about a title was, it boosted the holder's stats, but the Rising Star title was special, as its boost matched one's stats. Basically, this was Hurkan's first step to power and glory. With that in mind, the young dude decided to get some gear. After that, at Mount Bima, Jaehyun had a serious face, now rocking his new armor, which was totally ridiculous. The protagonist was super embarrassed. After buying Skelly some quality gear, he had to settle for the only armor he could afford, which made him look like a total goofball. Just then, he figured out crying was a total waste of time, and speedrunning this mission meant he could finally snag some cool threads. With that, our hero zoomed off to break the speedrun record. Meanwhile, near a super quiet bush, a bloody hand popped out of nowhere. The dying player begged for a rescue, only to get yanked back into the bush again. This chaos was all thanks to the three misfits. Upon entering the dungeon, the dude was over the moon. Multi the adventurer was hyped to kick off his journey in Mount Bima, but just as the level 11 started flexing about his mad skills and how he was going to climb the ranks in no time, a sudden cry for help echoed. An adventurer was bawling over his buddy's dying body, screaming for help, which totally shocked Multi. The guy then told the level 11 that he and his friend got ambushed by monsters, and they were out of potions, even though they managed to outrun the baddies. With that, Multi dashed to grab his own potions, and just as the teary dude thanked him, the third bandit behind the guy got ready to ambush Multi. And boom, it happened. The skinny dude thanked the now frozen level 11 and said he and his pals would make good use of his gear. Multi got super mad realizing he got played, but the bandit insisted it wasn't their fault. Seeing how easy he was to trick, he delivered the final blow. Just like that, Multi was toast. All that was left was his war watch. And as the other two thieves started roasting their latest target, the first bandit of the infamous PK gang, armed with loads of war watches and known as the Ralph family, suggested they move on to their next victim. Meanwhile, Skelly found himself battling two monsters of the same type, but just as they charged at him, his owner switched him to attack mode, and so the summon launched himself at the monsters, before totally owning them. Herkin pointed out how Skelly could now take down a whole pack of ancient wolves now that he had a sword, seeing how he easily scored him 1,120 experience points. This made him realize that focusing on skeleton gear was the right move. The one in the goofy outfit tried to convince himself that real players prioritize efficiency over looks, as tears streamed down his face. Hirkan was then left annoyed as Skelly genuinely started to feel sorry for him. With that, the necromancer ordered the skeleton to find another target to level up and finally score a decent outfit. But just as Skelly rushed to rejoin his master, a light suddenly appeared. The summon suddenly got headshotted by an arrow. This startled the main dude. The marksman quickly said sorry. The head of the bandits claimed he thought the summon was a distant monster, which is why he attacked him. But just as our hero was about to brush it off, something suddenly caught his eye. Upon seeing the many war watches and weapons covered in blood, our hero quickly figured out the true nature of those three. Hirkan let out a fake laugh and genuinely asked for a mana potion as payback. The guys claimed they had none and offered to help him farm instead, seeing how leveling up boosts mana. And just as our hero agreed and the bandits admitted they messed up, the sound of beasts echoed. The guy said they showed up just in time, before saying he and his crew would fight and let the hero finish them off, which Hirkan quickly agreed to. As the bandits charged, the guy asked their goons if they remembered the plan. The first step was to lure the ancient wolves using aggro. The second was for the priest to boost the monster's power, before finally luring them, by a supposed mistake, to the target. The target then loses their cool. But just as they were about to reap the rewards of their plan, the guys were left stunned, as the player started scolding the skeleton who saved him for being too slow. As our hero asked the bandits to keep attacking, the guys were left baffled by the upset skeleton's strength. This made them tweak their plan after seeing how Skelly was more powerful than expected, and so the bandits unleashed multiple hounds at once. But in reality, the monsters were just a distraction, while they plotted to take down the player. Just then, the one in a goofy outfit dodged Agro's sneak attack. This quick move left the big guy totally stunned. Hirkan then slashed the bandit with a swing of his sword. Seeing this, the other two were left totally stunned. The player then deployed Skelly with a snap of his fingers. With that, the skeleton was ready to throw down. And so, Summoner and Summoned charged at the two remaining liars. And even though the terrified dude was begging for a chat, they got sliced up real quick by our hero and his sidekick. Hirkan was all, "Yeah, I know these types. The ones who backstab players and then loot them." Our hero was like, "Man, I would have totally fallen for that trick in my noob days." The bandit tried to talk his way out of it, but our hero was like, "Nope, not today, buddy," since he promised himself never to trust anyone again. After taking down the bandit, our hero realized the guy was a total leech, hoarding 8 unclaimed war watches. But even so, our hero decided to snag the gear for a cool new look. And just then, he spotted Skelly going ham on the big guy, stomping him like a dance-off. The master then asked the blushing, blood-splattered skeleton what he wanted. With that, the hero whipped out some magic to fix up Skelly's noggin. And just like that, Skelly was all fresh and geared up, ready to roll. Skelly tried to play it cool about his snazzy new outfit, but our hero was like, "Chill, it's not that deep." Hirkan was all, "Looks are trash. It's what's inside that counts," even though he was rocking a flashy outfit himself, which Skelly found kind of funny. Skelly wasn't buying it as his master pointed out how lucky they were to score those war watches. Once a war watch is sold, the inventory usually tanks, leaving behind rare stuff like the Black Goblin pants that boost magic and smarts, or the Ancient Essence sword that also amps up magic, plus skill-boosting grimoires. But our hero was mostly hyped about the epic gold haul. Hirkin was kinda grateful to the thieves since they helped him level up big time. But just as our hero said he needed to look fly for his future streams, he started to remember how he once told his buddy that everyone in the guild should wear traditional masks to get famous with other gamers. And after thinking, the dude agreed and even said their guild would be called Yahello Mask, which made him super stoked. Back to now, our hero thought about how he once wanted to switch up his style as he swapped his mask for a darker, edgier look. Hirkan vowed to never let anyone take what's his again. Our hero was set on proving everyone wrong and starting fresh, and so with his mask on, he and Skelly hit the road. Later, Necromancer and his summons stood at a dungeon's entrance. Our hero stepped into the cave dungeon of Mount Bhima. The summoner remembered how this place used to be home to the blue werewolves. Our hero was pumped to clear this dungeon fast, even though the monsters were tough, cause his new gear was gonna give him the upper hand. And so, Hirkan and Skelly charged in. After hours of wandering the map, the frustrated hero was baffled, since there wasn't a single monster around. The gamer, seeing Skelly attacking a random wall, thought the game was glitching, cause he should have gotten a heads up if the dungeon was already cleared. But then, he noticed a dark, purplish magic vibe. Just like that, a massive, spooky, dark gate appeared behind the wall. The instance dungeon called the Stage was why the purple werewolves were MIA. Instance dungeons are one-time random events that pop up in dungeons, pausing their activity until cleared. They're tougher than regular dungeons but offer better loot. The catch is, once you're in, the only way out is winning or losing. Our hero knew the smart move was to stick to easier quests to dodge a 2-day ban after dying. But on the flip side, dying was rare unless you lost, so the hero and Skelly dove into the stage anyway. The hero was hit with a blinding light. Hirkan found himself in the ruins of a coliseum. The dungeon's eerie vibe made him wonder about the monsters lurking around. But before he could finish his thought, the ground started shaking. Our heroes faced a giant three-eyed humanoid hound. This beast was actually a corrupted werewolf of unknown level. And just as our hero was pondering why this beast was corrupted, it charged and smacked him with a powerful claw. The young one went flying into the wall. Skelly was left stunned. And so he got ready, taking a solid stance. Right then, our hero cracked up, catching his buddy off guard, totally hyped to face a corrupted wolf. He told his sidekick that if things went south, he wouldn't let him suffer. With that, Hirkan charged at the massive hound. Skelly got set and swung his sword to launch our hero sky high. As the werewolf lunged, Hirkan whipped out Curse. By channeling mana into his blade, he unleashed Demonic Curse, leaving the corrupted beast on high alert. Just like that, the werewolf's arm was sliced off by our epic necromancer. The monster howled in pain, with only 90% of its stats left. Demonic Curse was a hit with our hero from the get-go. Then, the boss started to morph. Suddenly, the beast roared, reattaching its arm, shocking our hero. Seeing the werewolf shake off the curse with rage didn't faze the gamer. With that, our hero decided to test a secret weapon. Hirkan activated his Warwatch feature, Slot On. Dark energy oozed out, wrapping around the protagonist until a flash of light burst forth, and he emerged from the shadows. Hirkan, now rocking dark, powerful armor, was ready to rumble. Slot On was a Warlord exclusive. When activated, it morphs the user's body and fills it with world energy. And since the form was unpredictable, some dubbed it Rampage Mode, which our hero used against the werewolf. The beast roared fiercely and charged at the gamer. Hirkan dodged the monster's claws and kept dodging its relentless attacks. Just as he landed, he had to dodge another swipe from the hound. Hirkan saw this beast as a worthy boss, knowing 3 hits would end it, when suddenly another charge snapped him out of his thoughts. Yet our hero grinned before slashing the boss with his glowing blue blade, leaving it bleeding. To our hero, a tough game is a fun game, when suddenly he got caught off guard as the werewolf smashed the ground, sending him flying. This reminded him he was facing a raging boss, and just as the monster was about to claw him, he told the beast it missed an important detail. Just then, Skelly jumped in and sliced the monster's arm off. With that, the necromancer unleashed the attack he and Skelly had trained for. This left the beast on high alert. Then it happened. The monster got sliced up. Just like that, the boss was down. As he deactivated Rampage Mode, the hero marveled at its power. The quest card spun. With that, our hero completed his first quest, scoring 10 gold coins. The skill bone shard leveled up to E rank. Our hero snagged 20,865 G, plus the werewolf skull and skin, noting how generous dungeon rewards were. Hirkan also scored the gamer-bound necklace of the corrupt tracker, boosting class stats. Upon reading this, he realized this unique item was unsellable, but then, as he pondered the title, Hirkan quickly realized what was coming. Our hero was stunned to learn he gained 3 titles. The first was Aimed Rising Star, boosting magic and intellect. The second, earned by soloing a dungeon, was Challenger of Heroes, boosting durability. And finally, the mysterious Corrupt Tracker. The protagonist realized this title linked to the corrupt count from the main quest's first chapter. The main quest was Warlord's core storyline. Seeing the sweet rewards, every gamer wanted in on the main event. Our hero, who barely joined 4 chapters in his past life, realized this early title was more than luck, but a golden ticket as he logged out. Later, in the real world, Jaehyun watched a live stream of the Hydra Guild announcing their arrival at the first chapter's last stage, planning to finish in 3 months. Our hero paused the stream and was left speechless watching it on his PC. The main dude realized his epic title was kinda pointless now, since there were no more rewards in the main quest. Everyone else had hit the final level. But just as he was about to throw in the towel and wait for the next update, Jaehyun had a lightbulb moment. Noticing how all the gamers were obsessed with the Corrupt Count storyline, which was almost done with the first chapter of the main quest, uploading his last Corrupt Count raid video could totally skyrocket his views. Jaehyun, feeling stoked he recorded himself, decided to edit and upload it online as soon as possible. And since editing was key, he knew just the person for the job, an epic editor from his past life, whose phone just buzzed. Romini the filmmaker checked her messages, and was curious when she got a request from our level 15 necromancer. Romini chuckled at the notification from such a low level, thinking our hero was just a rich newbie trying to show off. But after watching the footage, she was stunned. Then, she jumped up from her chair and started shaking with excitement. The freelance video editor Romini, also known as Hell's Loudmouth, finally found her muse. That same night, in the bustling city, someone approached Director Chase and asked if she had called him, so she started chatting about a new video on the main quest. The guy recognized the video of the level 15 taking down a corrupt werewolf solo, and said his team thought it was May, since corrupted wolves were weak, when the director said she loved it, and wanted more. So, she asked for the gamer's presence. This was Seolyeon Chae, who would one day run the top business empire, Thunder Enterprise. But in the game, she was Syl, the Thunder Queen, and the one who messed with Jaehyun. Logging out, the hero was shook, seeing the insane number of views, even though it had only been a day since the upload. Jaehyun was hyped to hit 6,000 views, since it usually took forever to get there. And that wasn't the only cool thing. Romeni had started chatting, which was wild since she was unreachable in his past life. The hero quickly got bored of the convo, seeing how the editor texted like a grandma. Anyway, the editor asked about the next project, which Jaehyun found interesting, since he had no clue what the next video should be about, with no corrupt bosses nearby, so he planned to start streaming after level 50. Anyway, as he got connected, the main dude said he was in too deep now, so he decided to see it through to the end as he logged into Warlord. Meanwhile, our hero's video was being watched by Matador Shev, who was impressed by his skills. But just as he thought the hero seemed familiar, he was suddenly interrupted by his guild member Yell. Matador Chev explained he was talking about the Yahello mask, making Yell point out how he'd watched the video a ton, which is why the face seemed familiar. Even so, the guild leader couldn't help but admire the newbie's guts in this realistic game, and his summon's advanced skills that beat other dark mages. Yell got annoyed as Matador Chev kept rambling about a possible duel with Hirkan. The guy, who lost track of time, was surprised when Yell said the live would start soon, after shutting him up and pushing him inside. Matador Chev then said he'd always be grateful to Yell, who said a killer stream would be thanks enough, since tons of players had bought spots to watch the stream. And the legendary Battle Junkie, who leads the Red Bulls and is also ranked as the 9th best player in the game. As the dungeon gate started forming, the guy activated his armor and walked right in. With that, he told his crew to gear up for the raid as the battle kicked off. Meanwhile, at the Figus Castle branch of the Monster Hunting Association, our hero was left stunned by the emptiness. Seeing how there were no quests to tackle, Jaehyun got annoyed. Even though he prepped for this moment, he was still thrown off by the lame quests. But just as he was about to ditch streaming for another time, he got approached by this dude who totally recognized him as the guy who took down the blue werewolf's crib. Jaehyun was like, "Oh snap, I know this guy." The dude, who sent him on that epic quest to Mount Bima, introduced himself as Hotan and asked for a chat. Hotan spilled the tea about hearing Jaehyun took down a corrupted werewolf in his last dungeon. Jaehyun was all ears, thinking this was some kind of special event. Hotan was like, "Yeah, I figured you'd be into this." Jaehyun was shook when the old dude revealed the dungeon boss was a victim of someone called the Corrupt One. Hotan said the real name was a mystery, and that the corrupt one who messes with monsters was causing major chaos. Hotan got cut off when he started talking about a bounty. Jaehyun was like, "I'm in," when he realized it was a secret quest. Even with the old dude's warnings, our hero was all in. So, the old guy was like, "Alright, let's do this," and mentioned a Himbri at Bance Castle in the east. Jaehyun was totally mind-blown. Hotan then hooked our hero up with a recommendation for a Himbri to train him. Once he finds the guy and hands over the letter, our hero gets a new skill book. This made Hirkan shake. He was buzzing with excitement. Hirkan, who was the talk of the town, was stoked about the quest to learn from a Himbri. This NPC, the OG of skill books and a mage idol, was one of the 7 students of Bokan the Great Magician. Jaehyun thought this secret quest, which would make epic vids, was thanks to his Rising Star title and the start of the main quest. Then he hit the brakes. There was something urgent to handle first. Later on, in the Windy Woods, our hero used his Bone Shard skill by chucking the skull on the ground. As Skelly came to life, the necromancer realized he hadn't used his loot from the last dungeon. First, he decided to make the wolf skull useful by slapping it on Skelly. Boom! Skelly's durability shot up with werewolf vibes. Jaehyun then used the corrupt tracker's necklace by putting it on himself, boosting his stats and necromancer skills big time. Skelly was curious as his master said he was done gearing up. Hirkan then used Bone Shard again. The first skeleton was like, "What?" Seeing 2 skulls tossed. Boom! Energy bursts happened. Skelly watched 2 skeleton warriors pop up, and he was super curious. The master said the soldiers would roll in 3-man squads and told Skelly to play nice. Skelly was bummed as Hirkan went off, wondering what monsters he'd face. The level 25 forest bear made its move. Our hero dodged the first hit, and the second. But when the beast went for the third strike, our hero started to freak out. But it was all a trick. Then, one of the new recruits tried to jump the bear from above, but the bear was quick, surprising the summon. The bear knocked the skeleton away. This ticked off our hero, who said they should hit the blind spot for a win. Then it was the second recruit's turn, and as he tried to jump the bear from above, he got smacked down in one hit, which triggered his master. Jaehyun was mad at the second skeleton for copying the first instead of hitting the blind spot. But just as our hero got annoyed, Skelly made a grand entrance. Our hero had big hopes for his first summon. As Skelly dove from the air, our hero was stunned, as Skelly's head got knocked clean off by the bear. This stupidity made the necromancer lose it. He started yelling his head off. Later, as the skeletons held their heads in their hands, the hero, who told them to put their skulls back on, called out how dumb his summons were. He then explained how monsters would counterattack in the same direction they were charged at, before saying they should hit the blind spot and asking about the perks of this move. But when he got nothing but crickets, Jaehyun decided to stop, as it only made him more frustrated. Even though he was hyped to summon 3 skeletons thanks to his new skills and necklace, Jaehyun was super stressed about the summon's zero teamwork vibes. All the soldiers had been through the same stuff, but since nobody taught them to fight as a squad, teamwork was a no-go. So our hero ended up with a skill that was more useless than a chocolate teapot and drained his mana like crazy. Jaehyun then announced that combat vids were off the table for a bit, even though he hit his level goal, and ordered his crew to march on, training non-stop till they hit their destination. At first, he thought he could chill while the undead did the heavy lifting, like a real necromancer. But now he realized he was stuck on the front lines forever. And so, our hero and his bony squad hit the road. Later, at the Bangatsu Castle branch of the Monster Hunting Association, the place was packed like a can of sardines. When a player showed up, the raiders swarmed him to see what quest he snagged. They looked like a bunch of hungry seagulls to Jaehyun, who figured this type of hunter was everywhere, the kind that never levels up their own skills, and just leeches off others. Hirkan quickly ditched a dude trying to haggle for a quest. He was dead set on keeping his secret quest under wraps. He flashed his recommendation, claiming it was from Hotan. With that, the guard let him through and told him to head to the second floor. Seeing this, the gamers tried to act like his buddies, but no dice. Hirkan started wondering about the mage's personality, thinking it must be epic to fit a hidden quest. Our hero decided to buddy up with the NPC when he got to the office. Jaehyun was floored by the chaos in this place. Then, a voice from behind the books spoke up. Arimbi said he had no meetings today. Our hero, shocked by the NPC's look, introduced himself to the great mage and handed over Hotan's letter. When the NPC praised his dark magic skills, even though he was a newbie, the hero tried to play it cool, but he was really just after the loot. And so, the great mage decided to hook our hero up with his well-deserved reward. Just like that, Hirkan scored the skill books Madness Helm and Bone Armor. Getting 2 ultra-rare books for the price of 1, the young dude tried to say thanks, only to get shut down by the NPC. Hirkan was then shown the door as the hidden quest wrapped up. This made him freak out and chase the great mage, since he was supposed to get a new quest. Jaehyun thought his trip was worth way more than just 2 skill books, but just as he said he didn't care what he had to do for a quest, his hand got grabbed by the NPC, who called him out on his words. The hero felt on edge as the dark-faced great mage thanked him big time. Just like that, Jaehyun got a quest to swipe an egg from a nest, and when he saw the quest had no reward, he realized he'd been played. Then, the crowd started gawking at the knight who rolled in, checking out his fancy gear. After reaching the castle, the knight confirmed he was at the right spot, then asked where our hero was. Just like that, the door shut behind our hero, who was bummed to find out NPCs could totally trick players. Jaehyun was ticked off that he had to do a no-reward egg quest instead of the corrupt count, but just as he was griping, he got overheard by a player who realized he'd been given a new task. With that, the players swarmed our hero like a pack of wild animals to snatch his quest. The presence of these leeches had totally slipped Jaehyun's mind, and he was clueless on what to do, but just as he started plotting to take them all down, the players got knocked back by a knight's green aura, who asked our hero for a chat. Herkin was stunned when the armored dude asked for a private convo, and felt on edge by this mystery guy. But just as he tried to shake him off, the knight asked for his help. Jaehyun was floored when he got recognized as the Haho mask. Later, in some random alley, the knight apologized for the whole mess, then said privacy would make things clearer as he revealed his face, only to show he was a total stranger. The hero totally blanked on the knight, who was probably a pro gamer, judging by his epic gear and the hero's past life memories. When the dude asked if our hero was the one he was looking for, the hero started questioning who this knight was and how he knew him. So, to survive this wild situation, the hero decided to play dumb, saying he only followed the knight because he was told to, and he had no clue about the Haho mask. This left the guy puzzled, since this player was supposed to have a quest from the great mage, so Jaehyun made it clear by saying being there was annoying him, and asked the guy to introduce himself properly and give one solid reason to trust him. Jaehyun then flipped off the mysterious dude, daring him to risk his account if he wanted a showdown. Our hero figured playing clueless was the smartest move. With that, the hero waited to see how the knight would react, and then the guy reached out his hand and apologized to our hero for mixing him up with someone else. This totally shocked the hero, who quickly shook the knight's hand, thinking the armored dude was too scared to fight him. With that, Herkin bounced, saying this was the only chance he'd give the knight. As he walked away, the guy just watched in silence. Then, the guy summoned a tissue and talked to a shadowy figure that popped up, saying he guessed Herkin wasn't the target, that our hero wasn't a top player. Seeing how pro players would never just hand over the arm with their war watch as he tried to wipe off the hero's touch. The lady then asked if keeping an eye on the great mage was still a big deal since the main quest was almost over, meaning no one could change things now, but the knight said they shouldn't leave it to chance since the Egg of Nest was key game lore. And so, as the shadow went back to her spot, the two split up. But little did they know, their chat was overheard by our hero, who was surprised to see a duo. Herkin quickly figured this team was part of a bigger squad, not just a small guild, since they didn't introduce themselves or explain their motives. On top of being game elites, judging by how they tried to size him up. With that, our hero was left wondering about the knight and the shadow's identities. Later in the woods, as the troops were sparring, the necromancer was sure that his quest was way more important than it seemed. The hero guessed the knight and the shadow saw his vids and realized his alter ego would get a quest from the great mage, and the fact they let him walk away showed they didn't care about his real name. Herkin then got frustrated, seeing how he couldn't stream, and the quest he knew little about would definitely make him cross paths with the knight and the shadow again. And so he started ranting about maniacs messing up his life, seeing how the Thunder Queen, who just logged out, was already a huge problem on her own. Just then, her secretary Park Suji praised her for her good work. As she handed her a drink, she shyly asked about the Acceptance Guild exam. Chae Seolyan said all candidates were a letdown as she snatched the bottle from her assistant's hand. Park Suji was freaked out seeing her angry boss complain about the useless candidates. Sil then asked about any news on the masked prodigy, which the secretary recognized from the internet. The Thunder Queen was super mad hearing that Heiho Mask must have joined another guild since he hadn't replied yet. The secretary was terrified, seeing pure rage in her boss's eyes after learning the hero joined another team. And so, she ordered the employee to only come back with verified updates. The Thunder Queen then asked about the president's opinion, but to her surprise, it turned out he hadn't given it yet. This made the lady realize his silence was because of Warlord's success, before pointing out how he tried to marry her off after finding out she wanted to enter the Warlord world. Sil then asked the secretary, admiring her physique, to bring her new applicants and reports first thing tomorrow. Parsuji tried to complain about the short delay, but was quickly ignored as the lady, who she thought had a bad attitude, had already left the room. Meanwhile, Herkin was all, "Dude, it's been ages since I last hit up this place." Our hero rolled up to the lizard swamp, ready for action. Jaehyun figured the egg had to be chilling near Bangsu Castle, where the big shot mage hung out. And since the mission was all about finding an egg, it had to be from a bug, a lizard, or a bird, right? And because the mission had to match our hero's level, he quickly realized Lizard Swamp was the spot. He called Skelly over to flex his new skill, knowing the local monsters were no joke. The skill, Madness Helm, was a bit rusty, needing a symbol drawn on the target's noggin to work. So, he drew the symbol, and boom, the skill kicked in. A wild aura burst out of the bony warrior, leaving our hero totally wowed by Skelly's new horned look. Jaehyun then told the summon to attack him to test Madness Helm. But oops, he missed the part about the target possibly going bonkers. The skeleton geared up, then charged and roared at our hero, who, totally spooked, knocked Skelly's head clean off. Just like that, the charge was a total fail. Hirkan, thinking the summon's scream was just sass, started lecturing Skelly while the others watched, speechless. This made the hero wonder if this was some kind of glitch. And since everything seemed chill, he figured he got duped with a lame skill. Then, out of nowhere, level 30 lizard men popped up behind him. Hirkan decided to use this lucky break to test his new powers on the monsters. With that, our hero used Madness Helm to boost the squad's stats by 20%, and Bone Armor to give them some epic chest plates. Just like that, the Necromancer's crew was more OP than ever. The lizards definitely noticed the power-up. With that, our hero launched the attack. And just like that, monsters and summons went head-to-head. Skelly snuck up behind one of them and whacked him in the back. With that, the undead took down the level 25 monsters, letting their master level up twice. Hirkan was stoked with the results, and told his crew they'd hunt monsters for the egg for the next week, and maybe switch spots if they failed. But before he could bounce, the necromancer was spotted by a girl who was out to hunt him down. Her name was Ilya, and everyone thought she was drop-dead gorgeous. Even though she tried to be humble, she said nobody could ever hate her. Because of her looks, her fans would rush to help if she was ever in a jam. But while she was daydreaming, she slipped and face-planted into the mud. After taking a second to realize what just happened, Ilya got mad, hating on the lizard swamp. One of her fans had dragged her here to farm, but she was in a pickle as the dude got wrecked right after entering the swamp. The underleveled Ilya then spotted our hero as she started to freak out and wish for someone to control. The girl, who tore her shirt a bit, was set on making the necromancer her fan. Just then, Hirkan heard a loud scream. Getting closer, the girl faked a fall and asked for help, using her puppy eyes. Ilya claimed she got hurt while raiding, but just when she thought her sad, pretty face would make the young hero save her, to her shock, the necromancer just kept walking. Ilya, stunned that someone ignored her, begged the necromancer to come back, realizing she'd met another wild card. The girl then started biting her lip out of frustration, to the point where it started bleeding, since she was always the center of attention until now. And so, as the summons kept farming for their master, the necromancer got fed up with the annoying girl. Even though he tried to save time by ignoring her, Ilya wouldn't leave him alone. This playstyle reminded him of the Ralph family, who ditched fair play for sneaky moves. With that, he finally decided to talk to the girl to get rid of her as soon as possible. The girl then asked our hero to help her find the weapon she dropped in the swamp, so Hirkan agreed, but only if she promised to leave him alone after. Yet while Ilya claimed to be grateful, she was secretly thrilled to have the necromancer fall into her trap. After some time, the sword was found. Ilya tried to thank the dude for his help, but he quickly shut her down, reminding her of her promise to part ways afterward. With that, he ordered the summons to grab the blade. And just as Skelly and his crew went to carry out the order, the sneaky Ilya thanked our hero while plotting against the dark mages, thinking they were powerless without their squad, as she spawned a dagger. And so Ilya tried to stab the one who didn't fall for her tricks, aiming to take him out, but Hirkan dodged like a ninja, grabbed the surprised backstabber by the collar, and yeeted her into the muddy swamp. This made the girl super mad, who claimed her bodyguards would totally avenge her. The giggling hero then told her to look behind. Ilya turned around only to find 3 giant lizardmen ready to munch on her. And so, as the beasts began their feast, Hirkan said she needed acting lessons, since her true colors were obvious from the start. Jaehyun was determined not to let anyone fool him again. And so he ordered his troops to march, only to see Skelly mimicking Ilya's flirty moves. After giving each summon a bop on the head, the necromancer told them to learn useful skills. But then, our hero felt pumped after realizing that helping in the girl's downfall scored him some unexpected points. Hirkan then mocked the lady for mentioning bodyguards. Sure, they were made up, but surprise, surprise, they weren't. Later on, the player who got stabbed tried to avenge Ilya but fell victim to our hero. And when asked why he went so far, seeing how little he had to gain and how Ilya wasn't likely to be his girlfriend. The player grinned when asked why he went that far for a virtual crush. Suddenly, he burst out laughing, saying he acted out of love. But then, the hero delivered the final blow, as this behavior was considered pathetic in Jaehyun's book. The woman from earlier, who tried to scam our hero, was taken down by him. Yet he never believed. She actually had bodyguards, as she claimed. Ilya said she was killed by Herkon in her time of need. This made her fan club super mad, and because of her, Jaehyun kept running into more and more maniacs. The hero, already swamped with no quests, now had to deal with an army of simps. As he snagged the war watch from the corpse, the hero ditched the idea of taking out Ilya again to avoid extra drama. The war watch had 5,011 gold, goblin leather boots, and the rare necklace of promise. The hero knew the last item was a treasure worth a small fortune. This unexpected loot made our hero enjoy these simple waves. And just as he felt grateful for the chance at a fancy treat, Jaehyun was spotted by another simp who quickly recognized him. But just as he claimed he was the one who took down the beloved mistress, our hero realized he was seriously outnumbered. With that, Jaehyun started running for his life. Herkan tried to escape from the endless gooners and couldn't believe Ilya had such a massive fan club. The hero had enough and sent his skeletons to fight back. Seeing this, the one with the backpack let the big guy handle the skeletons. And so he activated his move, a skill our hero knew was fake, called the Power of Love. Seeing Skelly and the others easily defeated made the necromancer realize the simps were too strong for him. And so, as he made his escape, he promised to take them all down once he leveled up. Shortly after our hero outran Ilya's fan club, he kept running, knowing he was outmatched, when suddenly, a dark aura caught his eye. Herkan was now in a place that didn't look like anything in the swamp. Seeing how this spot felt alien, and he'd been roaming the swamp for days searching for the egg, the necromancer finally realized this must be where the egg was. At the same time, the simps kept searching for our hero, when suddenly, one of them spotted his skeletons. Skelly and his gang were dancing their hearts out, which left the players totally confused. The big guy got mad, thinking it was an insult from the one who hurt their idol, but the skinny one saw it differently. But just as he charged at the summons, a massive worm popped out of the swamp like it was saying, "Surprise!" Totally freaking out the chubby goon. The monster snagged the gamer with its tongue, and the players were like, "Oh no, it's the level 40 boss lizard dragon of the lizard swamp." This nest totally caught the hero off guard, because it was home to the big bad boss. The lizard dragon was a beast with killer stats, needing like 20 level 40 gamers to even think about winning. Herkan then realized the lizard dragon should have been MIA, since it was supposedly defeated ages ago. But then he figured out it would pop back up if someone with a related quest showed up. The protagonist figured this was the spot for the quest from the Great Mage. But then, the dude realized he got a quest way above his pay grade. He was fuming at the sneaky mage. Herkan felt lucky to have backup, but just as the goons tried to bail, our hero decided to mess with their plans by calling in his supercharged skeletons to block their escape route. As one guy tried to make a break for it, the lizard dragon handled him real quick. The players then saw the hero making a run for it. Herkan was grateful for those who took one for the team. With that said, the young dude had to hustle to snag loot from the unguarded nest. With that, Jaehyun made his move, and just as he went for the egg, he was totally shook, cause the target was MIA. In a total panic, he started searching like crazy. The young dude finally grabbed a dark item. After checking it out, the hero noticed this stone-looking thing was the closest to an egg shape. Then suddenly, our hero got a system alert that his warriors were toast. The young dude realized he was out of time, as the level 40 boss was onto him. The worm zoomed back to its nest. Our protagonist barely made it out in time, and with the mama dragon blocking the cave, Herkan had no choice but to hand over the artifact to the Great Mage. And so, the egg quest kept dragging on without rewards. After that, the simps got wrecked. Someone approached the skinny dude. It was none other than our hero, who swiped the war watch from him, saying this game was full of wild players. The goon tried to fight back, but our hero put his blade right in his face. Herkan then made his point clear by explaining he had a lot on the line in this game, and he never took them seriously. The protagonist sent a warning to Ilya and her crew, saying he'd go all out next time. This left the defeated dude shaking in his boots. As Jaehyun used his enemies as stepping stones, our hero was ready to go all in against this group if they messed with him again. With that said, Jaehyun decided to cash in by selling the lizard dragon's location to the Bangtsu Guild for big bucks. Later, when showing the item, the hero mumbled under his breath, claiming it was the promised egg. Jaehyun hoped this item was the real deal, cause he didn't want to go back to the lizard swamp. The hero got nervous as the Great Mage checked out the item, and just as he started to worry, the NPC confirmed it was the right egg. This left our hero super hyped as the great mage praised how fast he finished the quest. Joy quickly turned to rage as the game character said this quest should have taken longer for someone at the hero's level. Jaehyun tried to keep his cool as he asked the great mage for another mission. The NPC then dropped some knowledge. By revealing this egg was found near every corrupted monster, earning it a name. That shocked our hero as it was none other than the corruption stone. With that, the young dude realized the Knight and the Shadow were after him for this reason, since the corruption stone was key to the corrupted Count quest. They both wanted to see if someone had already snagged the egg, cause it could mess up the quest later. Hirkin then realized this supposedly pointless quest was part of the main storyline. Our hero got yanked back to reality by the NPC saying, "Sorry." This overleveled adventure was a test of guts, facing a super mysterious opponent. Arimbi then asked if the hero was ready to tackle the corruption. Hearing this, the hero started shaking. Not from fear, but from pure hype, because he was about to join the main quest. But just as he was about to say yes, the great mage shut him down. Our hero was totally confused as Arimbi said the enemies ahead were way too strong for him. The freaked out hero thought being underleveled meant he couldn't take the quest. But just as he was about to argue, the mage said there was a way. To the hero's total shock, the great mage said he'd train him if he begged for it. The necromancer left the office. As the quest ended with no reward, after becoming Arimbi's student, the hero got another quest called Arimbi's Teaching, which meant coming back at level 40. The hero was super mad at the great mage for tricking him. Meanwhile, the lizard dragon was toast. The guys managed to take down the lizard swamp boss. A gamer told the leader their guild did something epic, and the happy captain asked him to gather the crew after their break. The captain thanked the player whose skills blew everyone away. This dude was the knight who was there to help out. The knight said their win was all about teamwork, but the captain said he was being too modest, because thanks to him, no one got hurt, and explained how he was surprised some players acted like mercenaries. With that, the leader decided to give the knight a little gift. The helper said this wasn't the agreed price, but the captain said it was a small thank you bonus, so the helper turned it down, saying he hated anything not in the contract. The captain was shocked, seeing how mercenaries usually just wanted cash. With that, the guy realized how weird it was for their small guild to get help from a pro player who went to grab everything in the nest as planned, and even though the leader said the dragon's lair was empty, the guy kept going. The knight felt lucky, seeing how he snagged a chance to grab the corruption stone, and thought the Yahello mask he feared was taken out by the dragon since it wasn't beaten before they got there. But the knight expected this, as the lizard dragon was a boss needing skill and teamwork. A grin spread on his face as he only had to block the mask after getting the egg. But when he saw the nest was totally empty, the guy got super frustrated to the point of yelling his head off. Meanwhile, in the real world, our hero stood quiet in front of his phone. The big moment had finally come. After waiting forever and telling himself the pain was just temporary, his misery was finally over. Our hero was finally ready to order some meat. At first, Jaehyun wanted to be chill about food costs, but now that plan was pointless, seeing how he was part of the main storyline. And with the cash he earned, our hero was set on treating himself. A big chunk of money hit the young man's account, but just as he was about to order some food, a bunch of bills started hitting his bank account. Our hero was crushed, as he couldn't buy food with his almost empty account. This made Jaehyun feel like all his hard work was for nothing when he suddenly got a notification. It was the video editor who hadn't heard from him in ages. This made Hirkan remember to tell Romani that streaming was a no-go, seeing how he was being hunted down. But just as he was about to send the message, the hero realized that starving was way scarier than facing the knight and the shadow, and he was just trying to play the game. And so Jaehyun made up his mind and decided to do whatever he wanted. Later on, our hero spawned in the Forest of the Dead with his summons. Entering, a huge grin spread on the protagonist's face. The hero could never get used to this map's creepiness. This map, probably the best for a necromancer to level up, had everything to make his videos go viral. And before starting the raid, Hirkan introduced his squad to the newbie, saying they'd be using magic from now on. This bony wizard, a spell from his master, could learn cooler spells as the owner leveled up. While Hirkan was stressing about his mana running low, he decided to show the target to his squad. And then, it started rising from the ground. Chaos hit when the enemy turned out to be level 33 skeletons. The creatures were totally shook, realizing the enemy was their own family. The hero then told his crew to go take down the skeletons, leaving them totally confused. Hirkan explained to his squad that fighting would show the difference between regular beasts and the undead. But to his shock, his squad was hiding in fear. Seeing the clock ticking, the hero snapped his fingers. With that, Skelly charged at the enemy, forced to fight his own kind for his master, tears streaming down his face. At first the monster seemed down for the count, but seeing it move again freaked Skelly out. As the first summon got the scare of his life, The necromancer remembered undead needed special attacks to die, but he had a plan. So after grabbing his mage hammer that boosted his strength, Jaehyun whacked the skeleton, sending its head flying. Seeing how far it went, the hero was stoked. Hyrcan tried to teach his crew how to beat the skeletons, only to find them shocked, feeling their kinsman's pain. The hero aimed to make a speedrun vid of 100 skeletons in under 2 hours. Hyrcan warned his crew that failing would mean getting left in the forest, so the scared skeletons rushed to farm their own kind. As the skeleton chaos continued, our hero leveled up again, and while the skeletons hated it, their master was loving it. Seeing how good his crew was with a hammer, Hyrcan hit up the editor, expecting the vid to smash records. Then suddenly, a huge pressure hit. The entity stomped the ground hard. Jaehyun faced the level 35 skeleton warrior. The amazed necromancer realized he was facing a rare monster with no regular spawn, and it kinda looked like a cow. The skeleton warrior was confused seeing the hungry player charging, thinking it was fresh meat. But just as Jaehyun was lost in his food fantasies, he was jolted by the monster's giant axe swinging his way. The attack was so strong it cracked the ground and blew our hero and his squad away. After getting back up, Jaehyun saw how strong the rare monster was, almost taking him out before he could fight back. The hero was relieved to have sliced the monster's arm first. With that, our hero had a plan. He and his allies attacked the skeleton using Pelvis Crusher. With that, the skeleton knight started to fall. Jaehyun checked on his crew, when suddenly the monster, still alive, charged at him. Yet the young one stayed chill, noting how reckless the beast was, before saying he had one more servant, and the rare monster got spooked feeling the mage behind him. With that, the new recruit got ready, and launched a massive fireball, roasting the level 35 warrior. Jaehyun, who gained experience points, watched the chaos as the monster fell. Our hero was sure the vid would break all records. Seeing the bones burn made him crave beef even more. Then suddenly he got an alert as the system told him the field boss knew about the warrior's death. The monster then found him and his squad, and so the field boss started rising as a magic circle appeared. Jaehyun faced a 6-handed giant skeleton with 3 sets of arms. The hero was totally baffled. Now facing the level 40 boss, Golden Skeleton. This boss, also called the Slayer of Beginners, ruled this map and was the first in-game mage boss. The young man remembered the summoning condition he forgot was to slay lots of skeletons. Our hero was in a high-risk, high-reward spot. And just as he was about to use his powered-up skeletons, Jaehyun was shocked to see no one behind him. As the system told him he was out of mana to keep the summons going, Hyrcan was left solo, freaking out. He realized this wasn't a shocker since he'd used all his summons and had his mage drop some epic spells. So, he was stuck. Now it was his turn to jump into the action for the first time in ages. Boom. Spot on kicked in. And just like that, Hyrcan was rocking his ultimate armor. The showdown between the skeleton summoner and the skeleton boss kicked off. Hyrcan charged at the monster. The golden skeleton whipped up a massive magic circle and launched its attack. Suddenly, our hero was dodging a crazy laser barrage. Seeing this one-hit wonder, he got why this boss was known for wrecking newbies. Hyrcan knew those constant spells would eventually take him down. So the smart move? Stop their casting. Hyrcan went for it, smashing the monster, busting its top set of hands. The golden skeleton was shook as one of its circles vanished. Hyrcan quickly figured out the monster's hands were its magic mojo, so taking out the other 4 was the way to go. The boss started checking out its injuries. Hyrcan was curious as the system said the giant was watching him, and that the golden skeleton could guess his plan and size him up. With that, the monster switched its mudras, letting it tweak its magic. This left our hero totally baffled. After a purple flash, Hyrcan was sprinting from a wicked dark spell. That left him totally puzzled. And just as he realized the beam was closing in, he suddenly got a heads up and dodged a dark ball at the last second. This quick move made him lose his footing, and he hit the ground. Hyrcan couldn't wrap his head around it. He didn't remember the newbie killer having such a beastly attack. He started doubting his memory, wondering if the boss got a makeover or had secret moves all along. Jaehyun decided to brush it off since he hadn't faced this boss in forever. He was annoyed, having no summons to back him up and struggling to remember the monster's attack style. So he was stumped on how to take down this beast. As the golden skeleton came at him, he decided to go all out. The necromancer closed in on the boss, dodging its brutal laser. Even though he could dodge the boss's moves after reading them, the real problem was finding a chance to strike back. Just as Hyrcan looked for an opening, he got caught off guard by the golden skeleton, which grabbed him. Suddenly our hero was at the mercy of the giant undead mage. Jaehyun felt worn out. The monster seemed to have endless attacks, ready to finish him off. But our hero knew he had some tricks up his sleeve. Just like that, Hurkan cast demonic curse on the golden skeleton to weaken it. He jumped from the monster's grip and charged at its hands, and was stoked to see the monster with an unbreakable defense had given him a shot. Jaehyun charged his fist with mana. Before landing a punch on the giant's face, Hurkan unleashed a massive explosive power on the newbie slayer, and with that, he came out on top. As the defeated monster faded away, he scored experience points, leveling up, snagging some gold, and earning the title of Skeleton Destroyer. Catching his breath, he realized he'd have been toast if the fight dragged on, as he returned to normal. Then, he checked his status window, showing he was a level 36 necromancer with 9 titles and pretty balanced stats. Jaehyun was hyped about his level, but realized the danger was ramping up, seeing his mana reserves weren't cutting it, since he hadn't really boosted them. From the start, he'd leaned on his titles and crash leveling to keep his mana up, but now that plan was falling apart. His main focus, powering up the skeletons, would be pointless if they vanished. Jaehyun was stressing over gear he couldn't afford and his mana issues, but he decided to just chill. He treated himself to some beef ramen, focusing on leveling up and sending footage to the editor. Later, while watching the video before hitting pause, Rameni sighed, then suddenly punched a cushion. The editor was mad at our reckless hero. Seeing him take on a boss that could one-shot him solo but couldn't help admiring his epic skills, winning with 0 prep, she quickly sent the final cut to our hero since the footage barely needed editing. Rameni brainstormed for a title, and after some thinking, she nailed it with a brilliant name. The video was titled Emperor of Solo Play. Later, at the Bangsu Castle branch of the Monster Hunting Association, our hero returned as a level 40 to his master, just as tasked. When the great mage called him out for looking rough, Hurkan blamed his condition on his master and asked for his prize. The NPC handed over the promised reward, the skill book Osteology, marking the end of our hero's quest. This skill left our hero shook. Osteology, even at its lowest level, let our hero summon 4 skeletons, reinforce them, and lower their mana cost. Hurkan was stoked to finally find the mana reduction he needed. As he thanked the master, the NPC said there was more. The great mage presented the Corrupt Tracker Ring, forged from the egg to grant his student corrupt power. This epic item boosted Necromancer stats and all attributes when combined with the Corrupt Tracker necklace. Seeing this, Jaehyun was hyped, as this was an artifact only for those who finished the main quest first. But as he rushed to grab the ring from the great mage, thanking him, the master decided not to hand it over so easily. The hero was intrigued until his master dared him to take it. At first, our hero was chill about it, but then Jaehyun activated his spot-on to charge at the amused old man. Later, he managed to snag the ring. Hurkan couldn't believe this NPC was a grand mage, saying he'd have taken him out ages ago if it weren't a game. He remembered how he got the item and a quest to find the missing agent Miggy in Suryu Castle. The annoyed hero decided to spare the great mage this time. Jaehyun decided to farm first, since the area needed a high level. Then, the editor hit him up, urging him to check the freshly uploaded video of him taking on the newbie slayer. The last stream got over 2 million views, with insane comments and tons of donations. This blew our hero's mind. Seeing this, Jaehyun fell back. The stunned young man started to grasp the number in his bank account, and he said one word: Tomahawk. The overexcited hero realized he could now feast on any meat he wanted. He was buzzing with joy seeing the video crush audience scores. But just as he was about to log out and celebrate, a notification popped up. To his surprise, someone who made a huge donation reached out, claiming to have contacted him recently. Opening the message, the hero was shocked to see it was a scout from the Thunder Hunters Guild. Jaehyun got mad realizing it was the Guild of the Thunder Queen, remembering how they were desperate for him to join even in his past life. But as he was about to flip off the message, he started remembering the past, realizing he'd been here before. Back then, Jaehyun was annoyed. He complained to his guild members about the persistent Thunder Hunters Guild he refused countless times. Then, one of the guys praised his luck, saying this guild was one of the top 30 in the country. Before diving into how a killer salary was totally in his future, since their leader was loaded, his buddy mentioned how it was a no-brainer for them to scout the hero. The dude explained that Jaehyun was just too good and always stole the spotlight during streams. But then, out of nowhere, Hurkan shut him down real quick and said that the epic salary wouldn't matter once they became the top guild and made bank themselves. The guy was shook when our hero said he picked them over the Thunder Hunter Guild. He then nodded, eyes gleaming with greed. Fast forward to now, Jaehyun realized his pals were never the same after that day. Anger bubbled up as he remembered how they ditched him for cash. So, our hero gave himself a face slap to snap out of it. Before telling himself he couldn't waste time obsessing over money, Jaehyun jumped up, still too busy to bask in his success. The player decided to put his cash to good use, and with that, the skeletons were summoned. The troops asked about the golden skeleton, and the necromancer said he already took care of it. Jaehyun then told them they'd keep training to up their game and avoid past mistakes, before asking if they were ready for it. And while his old friends would have bailed from exhaustion, the skeleton was all in. This made the guy happy, since his second life was way different from the first. And so the hero kept pushing to be the best with his crew. The hero then told the warriors they were heading to Tsuryu Castle. The summons agreed to turn the trip into a training journey. Hyrkin said the training was to run to the castle, and he'd whack any slow skeletons, making them sprint like crazy as he chased them with a stick and a big grin. And so began the skeleton's wild race. Meanwhile, Syl was deep in thought. A dude in a coat asked what was on her mind. The lady was chilling on a pile of dragon corpses. Her guildmate Hatch said the meeting was coming up. Syl asked for updates on the main quest, and Hatch said they were still hunting for clues on the next step. The annoyed Thunder Queen said it was embarrassing for her guild to be outdone by the Hydra in the main storyline. Hatch thought the Thunder Queen was cold as she said her meeting with the top 30 guild leaders would be pointless since they were all weak. He then told her to be careful, and so the Thunder Hunters leader went on her way. To sum up this epic tale, our hero's last stream blew up, letting him rake in a crazy amount of cash super fast. Jaehyun said he almost lost sight of what, but when he got an invite from the one who wrecked his life, Hyrkin's anger came back. So he decided to keep his greed in check, and his first move was to bring a bag to the loan shark with the cash he needed to clear his debt. His next move was buying skill books, and with that, our hero was bummed again as his balance hit zero. Later that day, Jaehyun couldn't help but feel down about his empty bank account, even though he knew this would happen. And so he decided to shake off the blues by learning the new skills he bought. With that, when he touched the first manual, Hyrkin got the skill Skin Crafting, which meant attaching defeated foes' remains to boost defense, but the material had to be swapped if it got too wrecked. So he decided to test this skill by decking himself out with the skeleton warrior's horns, giving him 5 extra defense points. With that, the young dude summoned his blade and slashed his own hand. And while he was stoked to see he was unharmed, the skeletons were still stunned by his sudden wild move. Hyrkin then learned the next skill, called Curse of Sloth, which slows down the target using mana based on its size, power, and speed. This skill caught our hero's interest, so he turned to Skelly and was stoked with the result of his new skill after testing it on his first summon. With that came the last skill's turn. The ability called Summon Golem was the toughest to snag, and was also the skill our hero wanted the most. The skeletons were totally shook as their master finally summoned a golem. Jaehyun was buzzing, seeing how a golem was a big deal for a dark mage, and he was hyped about how tough this one looked. But wait, there's more. He flipped on the copy mode. Boom. A mana link connected the new summon and summoner. This mode let the golem mimic its owner's every move. So, mixing his battle skills with the familiar's power, our hero was sure he'd see some epic results as he started testing it out. But plot twist, the golem just stood there like a statue. The skeletons were dead silent as their embarrassed master tried to figure out what was up. Just when he thought it was a glitch, the golem threw a punch at the air, making the young dude realize his new familiar was slower than a snail on a lazy day. Jaehyun let out a desperate chuckle before cursing Warlord, the game that loves pay-to-win players. Meanwhile, the hologram said everyone was here and suggested they kick off the meeting. The leader of Ares, Nergal, thanked everyone for showing up. Metador Chev, boss of the Red Bulls, said he knew everyone there, while the head of Big Smile, Berg, was lost in thought. The Thunder Queen stayed quiet. Berg pointed out only 4 of the 29 invited showed up, making the battle freak admit he expected even fewer. Nergal said it was weird, since they were the top 30 guilds, and usually at war with each other. The Ares leader said this meeting wasn't popular, and explained the Hydra Guild knew the corrupt count's real name, planning to take him down in a month. The Red Bulls leader praised the small guild for doing what the elite couldn't. Then, bam! A fist slammed the table in frustration. Berg angrily said Hydra would hog all future main plot parts if they beat the corrupt count, but as he ranted, the lady told him to zip it. Syl said Berg should just run away quietly if he was scared, to avoid ticking her off. This fired up the Big Smile leader. Then, the other 2 guild leaders stepped in to chill them out, saying fighting would only help the enemy guild. So Nergal suggested teaming up to take down this guild, explaining each leader would stop their members from messing with the others, and share any main quest intel until it was over. Even though he hated it, Metador had to agree, while Berg accepted to stop Hydra's win. Syl watched in angry silence as the meeting wrapped up. Later, in the shower, the Thunder Queen was deep in thought, feeling embarrassed, knowing she had to team up with her enemies to beat the first main quest boss. Syl knew she was powerless, and losing the corrupt count to Hydra would mean her guild's downfall. So she decided to chill and wait for the next shot. Syl then called her crew to keep an eye on Hydra and report any weird moves. The Thunder Queen was more fired up than ever to crush the first main quest chapter. Meanwhile, at the Monster Hunting Association branch in Suryu Castle, our hero was floored by what he heard. The guy asked him again to head to Baboru Castle, telling Hirkan to find Agent Miggy there since it was the last known spot. This freaked Jaehyun out, as the castle was packed with level 70 baddies that'd totally wreck him in no time. The guy said he gave this task to our hero since he was a student of the Great Mage, and refusing would strip him of his corrupt tracker title, leaving the necromancer stunned. And so, later that day, our hero sat by the fountain and started feeling sorry for his own bad luck. He quickly pulled up the quest window, tasked with finding Miggy, the missing agent in the corrupt stone affair, and continuing his quest in less than a month to get his reward. The protagonist was super annoyed by this, since losing his corrupt tracker title would kill all his chances in the main quest. This made him realize that tackling all these high-level quests at once wasn't the smartest move. Since he'd been smashing through one impossible quest after another, he ended up unlocking one that was way too over-leveled for him. So, our hero was stuck in a pickle, couldn't step into the forest or ditch the main quest, when suddenly, a scream caught his attention. Two players were chatting about how Hydra was ahead of the other guilds in the main quest. At that moment, the boy got curious, wondering what would happen to all the side quests if the main one wrapped up. This made the masked one realize there were actually more ways to finish the quest without stepping into the forest. Meanwhile, the castle was business as usual. The black-haired dude was stoked that their mission was wrapping up after spending hours spying on the castle, but his buddy, the 8th commander of Hydra, Natal, was too hyped to respond. He was pumped to see his guild outshine everyone by taking down the corrupt count, so the commander had to chill him out, saying their mission of quietly watching the castle wasn't over yet. But just as Natal was going on about staying quiet and keeping cool, they got spotted by a loud, flashy guy who recognized the commander. It was none other than Kim's, the third head of the Red Bulls, who immediately said hi to Natal. The ginger started freaking out, demanding to know why the Red Bull was there, so he explained he was there to take down the mountain boss, and thought the two Hydras were there for the same reason. Since they hadn't been busted yet, they decided to roll with it. Natal got annoyed as Kim's thought he looked constipated, judging by his face. So he decided to bounce to let nature take its course, leaving the ginger fuming as his friends tried to calm him down. With that, Kim started to walk away, leaving the Hydra fuming. Soon after, he sent a message, and reported that their lead was legit since Natal from Hydra was really there. To his boss, the leader of the Red Bulls, who was surprised. The redhead was also shocked, thinking the anonymous tip they got was a prank. This made her wonder who spilled the beans, so the boss said there might be a traitor in Hydra. Kim's then told them they didn't have time to worry about that since Hydra was about to attack, so he suggested starting a brawl to buy some time. Yeah. The leader agreed that many Hydra members must have already surrounded the castle, meaning he should retreat since they couldn't afford to lose someone as valuable as him, leaving Kim's feeling pretty flattered. But just as he kept talking, a shadow appeared high in the sky, and then it unleashed a powerful attack. That startled the boss. The guy then explained to his leader that they might not be the only guild with this intel. This player called herself the Royalty of Thunder. She was none other than the Thunder Princess, Hahui, from the Thunder Hunters, demanding information. Meanwhile, somewhere else on the map, a giant golem was battling a massive bear. The stone giant blocked the beast's claw, taking hit after hit, before finding the perfect moment and charging at the bear. But the golem was still too slow to land a solid hit, and while the summons were getting used to the local wildlife, the mailbox of their master was empty, leaving him curious. Since his message should have been answered by now, only one solution was left for the protagonist to escape the tracking quest, which was to forcefully shut it down. The main quest is made of many chapters, with the first one about the corrupt count. The chapter would officially end with the evil noble's downfall, wrapping up all related side quests. Despite his best efforts, our hero knew he couldn't take on the count in 29 days, so it was better to focus on the next chapter, which is why he shared the final boss location with many guilds except the Thunder Hunters, hoping one of them could take him down. And just as he was about to angrily complain about the silence, he suddenly got something. A notification popped up, letting him know Hydra's livestream was about to kick off. Right then, the golem's hand just dropped off. The stone giant was now, well, handless. And just before the giant bear could land the final hit, our hero jumped in to shut up the noisy beast because he wanted to watch the stream in peace, leaving his summons totally shook. And so it kicked off. The commentator spilled that his guild was the first to find the corrupt count's crib, and they were gearing up to storm his castle. Just as he was about to drop the raid date, the boy was crossing his fingers it'd be before his time ran out. What he heard next? Total jaw-dropper. Turns out the raid was set for 3 days from now. Hearing this, he was all chill, because everything was falling into place, but even trying to play it cool, he was buzzing with excitement, and his summons totally noticed. And as the wildlife discovery show rolled on, the necromancer was thinking Hydra must be in a mad rush, knowing other guilds were onto the location too. Still, he was chill cause Hydra was handling the main quest, packed with pro players. He was hyped for some chill days after watching Hydra's win 3 days later. But, plot twist. The Hydra raid flopped, with everyone getting wiped out. Our hero was mind blown, struggling to wrap his head around the loss. He chucked his phone on the ground, fuming. He yelled at them for not planning and flopping the raid in under 60 minutes. Just as he thought he needed another guild to step up, a notification buzzed. The Red Bulls were about to start their live stream. Our hero instantly knew this guild was Matador Shev's crew, leaving him totally shook. Meanwhile, the top player realized the rival guild had failed, seeing the field fixing itself. He told his guy to keep an eye on the latest happenings, saying the corrupt count was so tough, even the Hydras couldn't take him down, and they had a slim shot too. Matador Chev promised his guild would give it their all, leaving the guy hyped. Seeing this, our hero was stunned, knowing this powerful guild had slim chances of winning. But to his surprise, the Red Bulls leader introduced their allies to the streamer, and it was none other than the Thunder Hunters leader, the Thunder Queen herself. Seeing this, the protagonist was floored, because it was the same woman who had wrecked his life. A day before the raid at the Red Bulls base, the leader was caught off guard, not expecting the Thunder Queen to ask for a meetup. He joked it was a war declaration, only for Shiru to say it wasn't. She pointed out how one of his guys got beat by one of hers, and the queen said it was just a friendly gesture. With that, she got straight to the point, explaining how the Red Bulls leader knew the first main boss's location. At first, the guy played dumb, but she said there was no time for games, saying she knew some of the top 30 guilds had the scoop. And seeing how Matador Shev, a lousy tracker, was on the castle's trail, he gave himself away. With that, the leader had to spill the truth, but said they didn't know who the snitch was. With that cleared up, Shiru asked if he really thought Hydra could snag the win, and while he didn't give a straight answer, she said they'd lose. Cause the first main boss wouldn't go down with a rushed raid, and they should learn from other guilds' raids. Matador Chev knew the Thunder Queen had bigger fish to fry, so he asked her to cut to the chase. The lady gave a sly smile, then suddenly slammed her blade into the table. As the dude hit pause on his sidekick, the queen threw out a wild idea for the first epic raid, promising the Red Balls they'd get the final hit. At first, the bull thought the Thunder Hunter was just spinning tails, but no shocker there. She had the chops to back it up. Yet, even so, the big boss made his grand entrance, unleashing his whole squad to take down the humans. With that, the two mega guilds found themselves struggling to hold their ground against the monster mash. Seeing this, the Red Bulls leader decided to step up. Meanwhile, the Thunder Queen was getting super annoyed by the endless monster parade. Right then, Matador Chev popped up at the front lines, promising to clear a path for her. With that, the fierce lady was relieved of the small fry, free to charge at the main dish. The Count was fuming at the human's nerve, trying to smack down the guildmaster with his tentacles, only for her to keep dodging like a pro. With that being said, she leaped into the air to deliver the final blow, but before she could, she got stabbed in the back. Shiru was impaled by a sneaky underground enemy attack. Seeing this, the Ball's leader was horrified. Yet, just when it seemed game over for the Thunder Queen, she cut herself free, shocking the monster. A fierce determination lit up her eyes as she delivered the final blow, taking down the corrupt Count. With that, the Guildmaster realized his temporary ally was seriously scary. Seeing this victory, our hero was stunned, as the one who wrecked his life took down the first main boss. This filled him with rage, but he tried to brush it off, just wanting the corrupt Count gone, no matter who helped. So he declared that Che Seolyan wouldn't snatch any more bosses from him, claiming that in the end, he'd be the one laughing. Sometime later, in the Bulka's Mountains, the player known as Herkon, who was Jaehyun IRL, was a warlord player who mysteriously time-traveled. His goal? Snag the top rank in the game while getting back at those who betrayed him. Even so, he was annoyed by always landing in impossible situations. Earlier that day, the necromancer finally reached his destination, standing before the blog field at the Bulka's Mountains entrance. Skelly was confused, so I explained how this red wall would vanish once the terms were met. Even so, Herkan was totally clued in on those terms, as these mountains were the main map for Chapter 2 of the main quest, meaning the giant barrier would disappear once the corrupt Count was toast. And just like that, he and his summons entered the mountain. Being the first to do so, he scored a ton of stat points, which left him pumped. So he urged his skeletons to charge ahead, claiming he'd be the MVP of this chapter, only to be greeted by local level 60 wild boars hunting in packs. The level 41 player had a hard time wrapping his head around facing a whole horde of level 60 monsters. The level 41 player realized he was about to be toast, and so, back to the present, the chase was on. Hirkin started cursing his luck for stumbling upon those monsters right after stepping into the mountains. Seeing how other players would surely enter this map soon, he decided to take a risk to ditch these boars. So he unleashed his enraged summons on the beasts, but they were so fierce, they instantly crushed the Bone Squad. The necromancer was ticked off that his summons got wrecked with one hit. Even so, he cracked a grin, as they were just a distraction for him to unleash the curse of sloth. With that, the boars were frozen for 5 seconds. Hirkin then summoned his blade, charging at the restrained animals, only to slip on a banana peel and faceplant in front of them, with the banana peel naturally landing on his head. The embarrassed hero was left in shame, the culprit being none other than the level 50 armor monkey who loved pranking humans. With that, the young dude was totally fuming. But just as he was about to chase the creature down, his stunning skills effect fizzled out. Just when it seemed like game over for our hero, a miraculous savior swooped in, taking down the first beast with a single shot. The protagonist was struggling to process the chaos as a storm of arrows rained down. The beasts started dropping one by one right in front of him, leaving him totally mind-blown since it only took one arrow to take each down. And as his rescuer came to check on him, Hirkin was stunned, instantly recognizing the guy. Meanwhile, inside the Suryu castle, a player nudged his buddy's attention towards a dude rocking the super pricey white mamba armor set. And as they wondered if he was a ranker, the one with glasses just ignored them. He then asked if the informant's name had been spilled, but his buddy Michelle confirmed that none of the guilds had a clue about him. Not surprising for her, since this informant had totally spilled the beans about the corrupt count's location. The guy then asked for updates on Haho Mask, so Michelle explained he was doing his usual vids. He suddenly got all riled up as she said he was a newbie player with zero influence or knowledge about the main quest. Michelle then asked the main dude about his next gig, so he explained he was heading to the Sweepers Guild, making her realize things would be tough as always, while he tasked her with finding the informant. He was super eager to dish out some justice to the one who messed with the natural order. Meanwhile, inside an abandoned hut elsewhere on the map, the hero, feeling lucky, confirmed to the guy that he was a sample of a Himbri, seeing how the dude in front of him was none other than Ma Wung, who was the main NPC of this chapter of the main quest, stumbling upon our hero during his daily patrol. This powerful guy, once the swordsmanship teacher of the prince, lost his prestigious gig due to some unfortunate event, so he went to live in the mountains, becoming the captain of the rangers, and just as the protagonist thought how lucky he was to meet him, Ma Wung urged him to head back. Ma Wung wanted the young dude to leave these monster-infested mountains, claiming he'd be better off bailing ASAP, yet the guy's mood shifted fast as the young one told him about the corrupt count's demise. The player knew how to access Chapter 2, claiming more corrupt monsters were lurking, and that his quest to find them led him to these mountains, asking if the guy knew anything fishy. The ranger captain claimed he knew something, despite having no proof. So upon asking the protagonist for help, he gained 14 stat points and the title of Initiator, first to contact a bulk-ass ranger. Hirkin was overjoyed, jumping out of his seat, asking what he could do for him. Just like that, the hero got a quest to defeat 50 monsters in these mountains to earn the guy's trust and 500 gold. Seeing his mission was all about slaying monsters, the hero was hyped to farm exp, totally thrilled. He decided to focus on the small fry for now and leave the dangerous boars and bears for later. With that, a monster immediately popped into his mind, which was none other than the armored monkey that had laughed at him before. The protagonist was pumped, plotting his revenge on the cheeky animal. Sometime later that day, an adventurer slipped on a banana peel, followed by another. Victims were dropping like flies, leaving the culprit super entertained. At that moment, he spotted another target. The predator geared up, only to be sniffed out by the real danger, realizing it was now the prey. Hirkin, with a wild look in his eyes, was set on taking down the monkey. Our furious protagonist swung his sword, only for the primate to easily dodge the relentless attacks. This one dodged without breaking a sweat, before deciding to make its escape. The enraged dude was annoyed by the monkey's antics, frustrated that he was up against a speedy target with trees always blocking his moves. Alright, buckle up for this wild ride. So he decided to switch things up, right? He psyched himself up and then boom, he chucked his sword. The monkey? Oh, it totally saw it coming. It freaked out, thinking it was game over. And then, plot twist. The sword barely missed the armored beast. Feeling all relieved, it started mocking our hero. But the human was like, nah, that was just a decoy, as he snuck up behind the monkey, ninja style. A chunk of the forest and the monkey went poof. And just like that, the necromancer finally got his sweet revenge on the cheeky critter. With that sorted, he was ready to take down more of its buddies. Meanwhile, at this big deal event, journalists swarmed the two guild masters like bees to honey. They'd just taken down the first big boss. One reporter hit up the Thunder Queen for her thoughts. She grinned, saying they got lucky and would keep grinding for better scores. But then, the perfectionist was all frowny. Her sidekick hyped her up, saying they thought they were toast when the monster wave hit. But her moves saved the day, only for the queen to say it was just luck, and they would have been toast without their crew. The Thunder Queen knew deep down that to be the ultimate champ, she needed the power of the Ha-Ho mask. So, she told the princess to hit up Hatch, which totally annoyed her. She was like, why though? And it was explained they needed to track someone down. Right then, the sword snapped. Our hero's trusty blade had finally had enough after the monkey smackdown. This ticked off the protagonist, who needed a new weapon as soon as possible. Problem was, he was broke. So, his best bet was to try his luck with gems. Monster drops are rare, but they can be used to craft cool stuff. And since armored monkeys dropped epic gems, the necromancer told his minions, with a face that could scare a ghost, to wipe out all the monkeys in the forest, even spooking the undead. But after 9 hours of grinding, he was super bummed. Despite the mountain of monkey bodies, no gems. So, he desperately rummaged through the pile in front of the skeletons, when suddenly, someone rolled up. They recognized him by his influencer name. Hirkin started wondering who this player was. Decked out in fancy fire lizard gear and a rare sword, clearly high level. This made the protagonist think he was one of those trying to unmask him. The dude in red introduced himself as Quixote, and after doing a weird dance, he challenged our hero to a duel. Hirkin was totally weirded out as the guy bragged about his internet fame, claiming taking him down would make him famous too. Judging him as just another clout chaser, he decided to bounce. But the guy begged him to stay, thinking how bad his day was, running into a weirdo after failing to score a sweet gem. Then, the dude in red offered 5,000 gold for a duel. Hearing this, the cash-loving protagonist's mood did a 180, thinking how lucky he was to meet a clout chaser. The guy in red was Quixote, and he called himself a bringer of justice. But this wasn't his story. The bringer of justice always stole the spotlight, no matter the game. But in this game, no one knew him. He tried to introduce himself, but everyone ignored him, too busy watching Ha-Ho mask videos. This ticked him off big time, being labeled as the protagonist's sidekick, even though they started the game together. Quixote started bawling, not getting why people were hyped about someone weaker than him. Then he thought about where he was going, running around aimlessly. And then, he spotted someone familiar. It was none other than his biggest rival. He figured out he was here slaying monsters, which was wild since the mountains were supposed to be a no-go zone. Then, the dude in red had a light bulb moment. Filming himself taking down the famous influencer? Instant fame, baby. Fast forward to now, Quixote, now just in his undies, challenges the main dude, promising 5,000 gold if he wins. The confused guy asks why the weird outfit, and the red dude says he wants a fair fight. He points out the main guy's got no weapons. Quixote wants to win without anyone saying it was just because of his fancy gear. Hirkin jokes that all he sees is a guy in his underwear. With that, the red dude charges at the necromancer. The necromancer dodges, saying he wasn't done chatting. He ducks, avoiding the half-naked guy's punches. Quixote gets annoyed by the lack of action, so Hirkin tells him to make him take it seriously. The angry guy decides to use his power. The necromancer is shocked as the booster kicks in. Before he can react, he gets punched in the face. He crashes into a nearby tree. Hirkin, who blocked at the last second, is stunned to see the booster, a warrior-only skill, in action. He realizes the guy in front of him is way over-leveled. Hirkin knows he'll lose if he charges head-on, so he switches up his strategy. His opponent thinks he's finally getting serious. Quixote is pumped to beat the main guy. He wants to prove he's the best as he charges. But just as he's about to land a big punch, dirt gets thrown in his eyes, blinding him. The hero follows up by tripping the guy. Quixote falls flat on his face. Hirkin says since he's outmatched in strength, he'll use technique to win. He keeps hitting his opponent with strong blows. He pushes him back into a tree. Quixote says the necromancer has no honor, but he explains, honor doesn't matter when you're fighting for your life. He points out Quixote lost because he cared more about looks than winning. With that, the necromancer uses his skin stitching on the armor monkey hide. He powers up with the item's abilities. Quixote realizes he's in a tough spot. The next hit could be the end, while the main guy tells him to own up for starting the fight. At that moment, the red dude starts crying, saying he gives up. The powerful attack lands, missing the half-naked guy by an inch. The leftover power is strong enough to smash the tree. Quixote trembles, remembering he's in Warlord. The winner asks for his 5,000 gold. As he threatens to take down the red guy, this one is filled with admiration. He ditches his helmet in excitement. As the half-naked guy praises the hero feels weirded out. Quixote decides to keep his promise. He even gives the winner his sword. Seeing it's the orc hero's sword, the main guy gets super hyped, listing its stats and price. Then he remembers himself and calms down, asking for an explanation. The red guy says it's his way of saying thanks. He learned he was more into looks than the actual game. He tells the hero to take the weapon, saying he's worthy of being his bro. Realizing why he got the gift, the main guy, instead of calling him noble, kicks him in the sensitive area. He leaves him to his minions. And just like that, the half-naked guy's screams echo through the mountains. Later, he introduces himself as Don Quixote, saying he'll be back when he's worthy of the necromancer. And just like that, the tied-up guy says goodbye while calling the hero a madman. Even so, Hyrcan was stoked seeing how much this dude was vibing with the game. He was super hyped about snagging a sick weapon, so no more monkey business, literally. With that, the young dude was all set to dive into the next quest. But even then, he was sure he'd finally score some epic loot if he took down a few more monkeys, much to the skeleton's shock. And just like that, the undead tried to hold back their loot-hungry master. Loads of quests were crushed. Ma Wung gave props to the young dude for taking out almost 1,000 monkeys, 100 wolves, and a bunch of lizards, saying his efforts were a big win for the investigation. Only then did the guy notice the weird face the hero was pulling. So he awkwardly explained he was just daydreaming about what he could buy with his cash, so the guy told him to focus, since his next mission could be the most intense yet. Ma Wung then pointed out the spot of the bear warrior. This beast, almost twice the size of a human, was rocking gear like a pro, meaning the hero would help big time by finding out where the monster's weapons came from, which might lead to the final boss. Hyrcan knew he had to bring back the bear's weapon after taking it down. The guy then suggested he get some backup since even rangers struggled with those beasts, but the player was like nah, saying he already knew the trick to beat them. A bit later, the hero was closing in on the bear's turf, and with that in mind, Hyrcan decided to treat himself by snagging something cool from the auction, and the best thing in his budget was a snake set. And just like that, the young dude scored himself the shoulder guard, the woods, and the rest of the set, giving him epic boosts that cost almost 38,000 gold. In the end, Hyrcan couldn't hold back his excitement, and decided to splurge on 5 skill books for almost 18,000 gold. And just as he thought he'd be good with this gear, even if it was weaker than the bear, he got a tap on the shoulder. The skeletons gave him puppy eyes, wanting a treat too. The master decided to spoil his summons, only to find he was broke. Hyrcan was bummed to see he'd already blown all his cash, so he awkwardly turned to the skeletons, only to find them giving him the side-eye. He tried to convince them he'd buy them something cool once he got more cash. Then he pointed them to some passing boars, saying taking them down would score some money, so the summons charged at them. Hyrcan felt relieved as the skeletons took out their frustration on the random creatures. And after that, the last boar standing found itself crying, as it was cornered by 4 scary skeletons. But just as the hero told them to finish the creature so he could treat them on their way to the bear, the monster got suddenly shot. Our startled hero spun around. This group was ticked off at him for forming a squad without their say-so. The player instantly recognized them as some kind of nameless nobodies as soon as the 3 losers introduced themselves. Hyrcan grinned before charging at them with his blade. He was super annoyed by this new drama. He then wondered if a magic spell was attracting all these weirdos. And with that said, he and his summons decided to get back on track. Seeing how they got owned, one of the losers decided to humble the hero. Later on, the guildmaster was ticked that Hyrcan had attacked his crew even after they said they were from his guild. The underling confirmed, and so he tossed them a gold ingot, telling them to hunt down the troublemaker no matter the cost. The guildmaster was set on making the hero regret messing with him, while Hyrcan had no clue he even existed. Meanwhile, the hero finally reached his destination. He turned to his summons, asking if they were ready, only to find them flexing their new bling, and after a well-deserved beatdown, he told them to focus. Since their target was a level 70 monster with 3 phases, meaning they needed to be on point, yet he assured them that taking it down would give them a huge head start over the top guilds. The skeletons saluted to show they got the message. And just as the hero kept chatting, boom, the ground started shaking like it was doing the cha-cha. The summons were totally shook. A massive, scary level 70 warrior bear made its grand entrance, like a boss. Time for some epic battle action. Slot On was activated, letting our hero suit up in his epic armor. Hyrcan was super determined to crush the main quest solo. Meanwhile, someone else was hiking up the mountains. This dude had watched the video of Hey-Ho Mask going bananas on the monkeys and hoped to find him there. After a brief pause, the mage started bonking his head on a tree, thinking he was way too important to be chasing a newbie in the woods. And just as he kept whining, a level 65 king wild boar charged at him from behind. The mage, who noticed this, quickly whipped out his fire powers, to roast the giant ham and keep on strolling. This was none other than Ballista Hatch from the Thunder Hunters Guild, the 5th strongest mage in the entire game, now facing the giant bear warrior. The protagonist decided to act fast, suiting up in his armor, eager to finish the main quest all by himself. The fierce monster charged at the necromancer. In his first life, our hero tried this raid with his guild, failing 6 times before snagging an impossible win. But in this life, he had to beat it first try or risk someone else snagging the main quest. To take down the bear warrior, one had to hit its weak spots. Hyrcan stood firm, determined to win using his new powers. He rallied his troops to follow his lead. With that, he used his new passive muscle modification to charge at the giant beast, only to find himself suddenly airborne. Hyrcan was baffled by this unexpected twist. The monster and the summons were just as confused. The sad monster quickly resumed the fight, taking out all the skeletons in one hit. Muscle modification was supposed to boost speed, but it was way too effective. Seeing how things were going, the protagonist decided to use this new speed to charge at the monster, only to miss the attack because he was too fast, even confusing the bear. Hyrcan found himself enchanted by how comfy this mattress was, only to be tossed into the wall by the mattress itself. He started complaining that this skill was too OP for him to handle. Even so, he found some comfort in the fact he managed to knock some of the bear's armor off. Still, he wasn't fully satisfied, as his new power was a letdown. The hero was grumbling about his attack fails as the bear charged at him, barely dodging at the last second, before deciding to switch tactics by using his explosive new skill, Bone Bomb, which caused a massive explosion. Yet seeing the creature emerge almost unscathed, the annoyed player decided to try something totally different. He restored his skeletons, declaring he'd finally fight like a real necromancer, only to be shocked that his own summons didn't believe him. That being said, the protagonist decided to summon his golem, and so the stone giant rose from the ground and immediately started battling the bear warrior. The golem managed to land a powerful hit with its sword, which was exactly what the protagonist hoped for. He then used hardening to trap the bear's blade. With the weapon neutralized, the skeletons charged in, all targeting a bare spot on the bear. And just like that, they unleashed a storm of cuts, leaving the creature howling in pain while the necromancer told it to hang tight. He still had one big surprise up his sleeve. Then, a powerful fire attack was unleashed, hitting both player and monster, leaving them dazed. Hyrcan yelled at his mage for unleashing the fiery attack without waiting for him to move. With that, the monster used its scale battle cry to restore half its health, and with that, it attacked the human again. Seeing this, the necromancer decided to ditch the plan and outsmart the bear in the sneakiest way. And so began the ultimate bombardment. The skeletons watched in disappointment, as their master kept spamming the same move over and over again. After a bear frying session, the monster was finally toast, letting the player snag a ton of XP and a mini mountain of gold. Seeing how this cleared the quest, he started thinking about how he soloed a monster that needed a whole guild before, all on his own. Hyrcan was now sure he picked the right class. He then gave props to his skeleton crew for their work and said they should head back to snag the next quest. He stood tall, telling them they totally took down a bear warrior, only to get triggered when his summons started gossiping about him fighting dirty. Meanwhile, at the tavern of the Bulka's western base, the mage sat there solo, stressed out by life's problems. He then thought he was a goner for not finding the influencer, since even after days of mountain searching, he couldn't find the Heiho mask. With more people joining the hunt, it got even tougher. This left him super freaked out, since bailing on the mission would earn him the Thunder Queen's wrath. He thought the mission was unfair, like, who can search a whole mountain solo? The mage then started cursing the Thunder Queen's crew and her guild. Then his superior hit him up. This totally startled him. At first, he tried to make excuses for failing, only to get praised. This left him super shocked, as the Thunder Queen said the task was too much for him alone. He felt touched hearing her say it must have been tough. Yet, as he thought he could drop the mission, Shiru told him he'd get Hahi as backup. This surprised him as something crashed into the tavern, leaving a giant hole in the wall. The mage was terrified, as it was none other than the under-princess Hahi, who was ticked off about being sent to help him. She was also called the Mad Dog and really hated Hatch. And with that, the guy started cursing his bad luck. Sometime later, the necromancer noticed the mountain was now swarming with people, so much that a village popped up. Which makes sense, since everyone must have realized this was the stage for Chapter 2 of the main quest. So he decided to rush back to the ranger, sprinting through the trees only to bump into 3 enemies. After checking them out, he realized they were related to the 3 losers from before, making him think they were here for revenge. And so, as the necromancer geared up for battle, they suddenly zoomed past him, as the supposed attackers were actually running for their lives. Hyrcan was left super confused as a flash of light appeared behind him, And just like that, the three hunters got wrecked by a powerful attack that messed up his face. The player struggled to get it until someone pointed out how it was for someone to beg for mercy. But after a good look, he was left shocked, as he spotted Victor outfits. Those were followers of the Thunder Queen. Hahi then spoke to our hero, and asked if he was the mysterious influencer. The Thunder Princess was the second strongest in her guild and was also known as the Mad Dog. She was famous for her undying loyalty to the Thunder Queen. Her buddy Hatch was the guild's number 3, known as Ballista and a magic prodigy who always hits his target. The protagonist was annoyed he ran into these two powerhouses who caused him trouble even in his prime. He immediately realized they wanted to recruit Heiho and knew he couldn't take them down due to the power cap. So, he decided to play dumb, pretending he didn't know the famous influencer until the storm blew over. Yet, the Mad Dog didn't buy it, saying he must be a fan of the influencer since he was roaming the mountains, which seemed sketchy to her. But he found himself in a tough spot as Hahi said his outfit was similar to the one worn by their targets. Hatch said that wasn't the main issue, and that she was a big problem to deal with, seeing how she had wrecked a building, and took out a bunch of players, thinking they were sus. Big oops. They couldn't hide it, being part of a mega guild. So, the mage told the sword dude to say sorry, to keep the world chill. The hero was like, whoa, didn't see that coming. But then, Mad Dog gave a half-hearted sorry. As she walked off, her character called her out for being rude, then apologized for her. Just when he thought he was safe, Hirkan suddenly saw a fist flying at him. Bam! Punched right in the face, with enough force to slam him into a wall. Ouch! Hatch freaked out, saying she went nuts, thinking he could dodge. Hirkan pointed out they hit an innocent dude. He threatened to file a complaint against their guild. Hatch started apologizing and panicking, seeing the hero rallying a hate squad against the Thunder Hunters. So, he whipped out a sack of gold, enough to make the player forgive him. Then, the mage dragged Mad Dog away, avoiding more drama. Hirkan was ticked off, feeling too weak to stand up to those two. He knew he needed to chill and wait it out. Later, while scolding the girl, the mage got ignored as she said humans dodge by instinct when attacked, pointing out how. The hero seemed more annoyed than shocked by her punch. Her partner told her to drop it as they kept bickering on their way. Later, a piece of bear warrior gear was shown to Ma Wung, who thanked the hero, saying his efforts saved lives. Even so, he bragged about the hero, who was anxious about other guilds catching up. So, he presented a giant chest, and told the necromancer to pick an item. The chest was packed with dungeon maps the dude drew himself. Hirkan instantly realized those scrolls led to treasure spots on the map, but the NPC wanted something from the hero, which was super annoying, knowing nothing's free. Ma Wung asked the hero to check out armored monsters outside the mountains. When asked for the exact spot, the dude said it was the Purung Forest. Hirkan started crying, trying to explain to the confused guy. Our hero was bummed out, since the forest was a level 90 zone, way above his level, so he thought Asura Canyon was perfect for leveling up, with level 75 demon goats. He was sure he'd win, thinking they couldn't be tougher than the bear warrior. Later, the hero was shocked, suddenly bumping into an old friend, the leader of the Red Bulls. Meanwhile, the mage called his boss, crying, complaining Mad Dog was too much, only for the Thunder Queen to thank them both. Hatch then asked his boss if they should focus on the main quest, since the Red Bulls took over Asura Canyon. Hearing this, the queen's face changed as she started thinking. Hatch felt super grateful as Shiru let them off the search mission to focus on the main quest. Once the call ended, the girl leaned back, thinking how the strongest were bound to meet eventually. She was hyped to see how much Heiho Mask could shake up their inevitable showdown. The demon goat was level 75, but Skelly sliced it in half for his master. With that, he finally hit level 62, feeling pretty good. Just as he thought he was almost done, other players spotted him. They instantly recognized the influencer. Suddenly, he was surrounded by fangirls. Hirkan couldn't handle it, and made a run for it. He found himself in this mess, after getting 3 million views on the bear video. This made him excited for the cash, but fame brought unwanted attention, to the point where it messed up his hunting. So, the hero decided to switch it up by heading straight to the hunting ground. As normal players would totally freak out seeing those high-level monsters, he spotted someone waiting for him. When he saw who it was, the protagonist started bawling. Talk about the worst timing to show off. Matador Shev instantly recognized him from the beginner's village and called him out for ghosting him. The dude then pointed out the hero's insane growth, going from the beginner village to Sir's Canyon in no time. Hirkan then asked why he was in the canyon, since it was way below his level, so he explained how his guild now controlled the area. Our hero got a bit sus as the guy explained how his guild wanted a base near the main quest map. But then, he was totally shook when the guy said he wanted to meet the masked influencer. Our hero was completely mind-blown when he realized the rancor was there for him after watching his bed video. As Matador turned to ask if he wanted to know more about the mask, he bolted, yelling he knew nothing about the master player. After running far enough, the protagonist started cursing his situation, super annoyed that two of the most influential players were after him. Worried about his hunting progress, he thought about ditching this hunting ground, even though it was the best. Then he remembered the map he got from the mountain ranger. According to it, a dungeon should be nearby. And after checking the paper, he realized it was true. Normally, rare dungeons are in places that scare players, just like this one. So, he held his breath, thinking it might be risky but worth it, before diving headfirst into the water with his skeletons. With 20 seconds left before running out of air, he thought this should be the dungeon entrance according to the map. Our hero hoped to find it before running out of air. Then he saw it. With 5 seconds left, he rushed to the surface. And just as he was about to run out of air, Hurcan managed to safely emerge to the surface. Just like that, our hero found himself in a magnificent dungeon, earning 2 new titles. He was stoked, as this secret place would be perfect for hunting without any disturbance. As he began to explore, he wondered about the powerful monsters within these walls. Then, he heard a creepy sound. A monster appeared. The hero, spooked by it, found himself facing a weird-looking blob. Startled, his fear turned to confusion. Turns out, this hidden dungeon was home to slimes. The skeletons rushed to hold back their raging master, who complained about coming for stronger monsters. But to his surprise, the slime suddenly caught fire. Then he realized this cave might house spurt-type monsters, a super rare creature in the game that drops items used to create elemental equipment. This made the money-hungry young man realize hunting here might be his ticket to fortune, which left the slime terrified. So, he sent his servants to start the massive slime takedown. The terrified monster decided to act fast. Suddenly, the cave began to shake. Our player was horrified, as a mid-rank flame spirit monster of level 70, known as Salamander, made its entrance. The presence of the powerful beast startled him. It immediately charged up a breath and launched it at our hero, who dodged a fiery doom by a hair. This raw firepower amazed the young man, so he decided to take special measures to prevent things from getting worse. He decided to use his hidden ace. With that, Skelly was imbued with Madness Helm and Bone Armor. The first summon was then powered up by the expensive skull of orc his master had, and just like that, the skeleton knight came to life. Seeing this, the spirit monsters were horrified. Now in the presence of the evolved Skelly, it moved at incredible speed, easily shredding the spirit monsters to bits. Our hero then asked them if they were into his skeleton knight and its new power. Shortly after, a wild bunch of salamanders showed up, and boom, the battle kicked off. As the salamanders were about to unleash their fiery breath, the trainer just grinned and sent in his ultimate Pokemon. Skelly used the epic move, Quick Lizard Sushi, and after a critical hit, the salamander squad was toast. While the 3 skeletons admired their senior, the master was pumped to have someone else do the hunting, like a vacay. Once a skeleton levels up, it can totally handle the master's chores. And since salamander hunting was super profitable, it could easily cover the cost of fancy gear and upgrade the rest of the squad. So he urged the skeletons to hurry up and finish the dungeon to finally hit the strong forest. But 60 minutes later, the protagonist face-palmed. Turns out, things were trickier than they seemed, with the throne room dungeon popping up. This really bugged the player, as the only way to learn more was to enter the gate. Dying inside would get him banned for 2 days, letting big guilds take the main quest lead. Even so, this dungeon seemed like the only way forward. So, the young dude entered, hoping his luck wouldn't fail him again. He was now wandering the throne room, and after a quick look, he realized it was a deserted temple. He noticed blade marks on the statues, which was kinda cool. Then he spotted something that made him jump. Fear crept in as he saw the entity on the throne. What looked like a headless corpse at first suddenly burst with crazy energy. The protagonist was totally freaked out. He told his skeletons to brace themselves, but it was too late. All 4 were already headless. With his forces down, the necromancer backed up a bit. He realized he was in deep trouble. He hadn't planned for the level 80 Spirit Knight, a monster with top-tier combat AI in all of Warlord. The young man had faced it in his first life, even though his power then matched it and he had his whole guild. This monster wiped them all out. During their first encounter, the player had to run for his life, but he refused to chicken out on his second chance, activating Slot On. So the necromancer prepped his summons and launched a full-on charge at the Spirit Knight with their help. The monster braced its sword and unleashed a powerful slash that only one skeleton dodged. Necromancer then charged with his blade and attacked the Spirit Knight with his strongest summon, only to be blocked. At that moment, another summon tried to sneak attack the monster by stabbing it in the back. Feeling proud, it expected praise from its master, but the necromancer told it to run, and just like that, the skeleton got roasted by an explosion that blew its master away. Hurkan explained it was pointless to target the heart of a spirit knight, since the backstab didn't faze the creature at all. He was clueless about what to do next, as none of his summons could help. And just as he was about to give up, he remembered something from his past life, when his guildmate asked why he charged head first at a giant beast. The hero didn't have much of an explanation, but he swore he wouldn't eat unless the monster was slain. His friend couldn't really get this logic. Recalling this, the hero remembered the kind of player he was. Seeing critical hits were a no-go, he decided to spam normal damage until it fell. Seeing this new tactic work, he kept at it, but then the monster's speed ramped up, and just like that, the monster went for a quick stab. The hero started coughing up blood, before everything went silent. Hurkan, who blocked the head, said he was just a distraction, while the real striker popped up behind the monster and sliced its arm clean off. With that done, and the monster missing a limb, the heroes vowed no dinner unless the spirit knight was toast. Meanwhile, back at the canyon village, the Red Bull's leader was shook by how loaded it looked. His buddy said their guild made sure the roads were top-notch for supply runs, but then Matador dropped the bomb that he wanted to meet the masked influencer in the village. She was like, "Why are you so into a masked player who only takes down weaklings?" He spilled the tea. Even if the monsters were weak, they were over-leveled for the influencer, and only two kinds of people do that in Warlord, a pain-proof madman or someone with a warrior's heart, and the hero was both. No cap. Now facing the one-armed monster, the hero vowed no grub tonight unless it was down. But the spirit knight had tricks up his sleeve, swapping his missing arm for a fiery new one. Seeing this, the hero thought, ugh, annoying. Still, he took a deep breath and charged at the spirit knight with his first skeleton. The creature was ready for them, smashing the ground to make a shockwave, blasting them both away. But the player bounced back quick, charging again with his armored skeleton. Hurkan kicked things off, followed by Skelly. And just like that, the level 80 monster got hit with a storm of sword slashes. The hero thought this move was pretty OP against the knight, and after a few more hits, the monster was about to drop. Then the spirit monster's flame turned red, and the spirit knight fought back, launching fiery circles to push the attackers back. The player was ticked by the power-up. Time to counterattack. The necromancer tried hard to fend off the heavy creature. Its moves were totally different now. Getting more and more annoyed, the human finally broke free from the spirit and slashed it. Just as he was about to tell Skelly the next move, he got slashed and blasted. Taking critical damage, he realized he got distracted by Skelly's commands. As the monster went for the final blow, he knew he was in deep trouble. But then, a savior swooped in, taking the hit for his master. The necromancer was shook by his summoned sacrifice. Seeing this, the hero got super mad and bombarded the killer with bone bombs. But the monster shrugged off the explosions and went for the hero, who blocked it. Hurkan was desperate for more time, before unleashing another bone bomb wave, causing a massive explosion. Just as he thought he needed another wave to win, the monster shook off the blast and closed in on him. Facing what seemed like certain doom, our hero revealed spirit monsters were almost magic-proof, which he realized while using bone bombs. But he had slipped some cat fragments into it. With that, he turned to his necromantic powers, to summon as many skeletons as possible to trap the spirit knight. Then came the time for the final blow. The player unleashed a storm of slashes on the powerful monster, and after the attack, the spirit knight was toast, and the slayer scored a small fortune of gold, a piece of its armor, a new title, and tons of XP. Just like that, our hero leveled up. Looking back at his achievement, he remembered trying it in his past life, which got his crew wiped out. But now, with AI-generated skeletons, his strongest summon praised him for his feat. Hurkan was stoked to see his new journey wasn't like his first. The necromancer then gave props to his summons. Leaving them totally flattered, he started wondering why the exit was playing hide-and-seek. As these skeletons rushed to hog him, he got a bit spooked, thinking another monster was lurking around. Only then did the young dude notice a treasure room popping up behind the throne. The cash-hungry guy dashed to the treasure, thanking every deity he could think of. He started daydreaming about the epic loot waiting for him, only to get bummed out by a new leather-covered book. This book, tied to the main quest, was already memorized by our hero. This left him super annoyed, cause instead of a cool item, he got something he totally didn't need. Only then did the necromancer spot the glowing book behind him. Shortly after, at the Purung Forest, the protagonist figured he was strong enough to jump back into the main quest. He then turned to his summons, who were too busy showing off their new outfits. The hero was shocked by their crazy energy. Even so, they couldn't be blamed, cause finding such a rare item in the treasure room was unexpected. It was none other than the armament skill book, letting him deck out his skeletons with gear, which meant he could upgrade his summons no matter his level, even though chasing all that gear nearly broke him. So he urged his summons not to let him down. Only then did someone show up, hyping up the influencer, saying his power was as epic as his rep. One of the three dudes said he must be curious about who they were, so the other two revealed their lives were all about romance. They were the R2 family, the romantic criminals. Seeing how the warlord was packed with all kinds of weirdos, the protagonist almost rage quit the game. Shortly after, the three romantics started praising the protagonist for being a speedster. This really ticked him off, as these three new stalkers begged him to slow down for them. And so he snapped at them, telling them to scram, only for the R2s to say they were waiting for his answer. They wanted the influencer to join their fam, but his answer was pretty clear. The three guys decided to make formal intros, saying they aim to hit level 100 by farming this forest. Only problem was, the monsters here were way too OP. Seeing how they were too weak to handle them, they needed new hunting buddies. Yet, to their shock, no one wanted to team up with them, which didn't surprise the young man. With that, the guy started begging the protagonist, getting way too close as he invited him into his family, which totally creeped him out. Sometime later, Hurricane told the three he just beat up that he wanted to stay a solo player, firmly saying he'd take them down if they tried inviting him again. And so, with their last option walking away, the party asked their leader if it was best to bail from this high-level forest when one of them got a notification. He asked the captain if he remembered the Toon family, who ditched them for being too weird, saying they were asking for backup. Meanwhile, our hero and his crew faced a giant monster. The necromancer decided to go all out on the beast, and with that, he charged in head first, taking the monster's head clean off. With the black ogre down, the young man scored some XP. He and his troops had taken down a total of 55 black ogres. Compared to the Spirit Knight, these creatures were total noobs. The player was stoked that he leveled up. Only then did he get a request from the mountain ranger, asking him to find the armored monsters before meeting up. The necromancer was bummed he couldn't progress in the main quest, cause no armored monster was around. Seeing how the top players would catch up soon, he regretted not asking the romantic criminals for some intel. Yet remembering their faces, he thought that would be easier than teaming up with them. Only then did a giant explosion happen. Hurricane started wondering what kind of monsters needed explosives to handle. Only then did he realize that the monsters in question must be his targets. Meanwhile, the captain of the R2 family was fighting for his life. He was totally baffled by the army of armored monsters standing in front of him. Their armor's like a cheat code, making them super tough to hit. And their battle formation? It's like trying to charge through a wall of marshmallows, but, you know, the kind that fights back. They're way too OP for this forest. The dude had a theory that the puppet master behind the doll was this unnamed monster chilling in the back, claiming it was smart enough to lead a monster army. Too big of a boss fight for his squad to handle. Then, boom, firewall unleashed. It was like a magical nope between humans and creatures. The other two baddies rolled up to back their leader, saying since their buddies already bit the dust, it was only a matter of time before they did too. One of the baddies was like, "Yo, maybe we should bounce to save our skins." Seeing how winning seemed like a pipe dream, he started thinking, not a bad idea. But then, a cry for help hit him like a plot twist. He remembered when he got ghosted for help when his buddy was hurt, and all those times no one had his back. So he and his pals were always flying solo. Flashback time. The leader was like, "All right, squad, throw everything we've got to help our allies escape." He said, "We know how much it sucks to be left hanging, so let's not be hypocrites." Then he charged in, claiming he'd buy them enough time to make a run for it. The dude went full beast mode, fighting with all his heart to hold back the monster army, swinging like a pro. At first, he thought he was crushing it, but then, wham! One punch had him eating dirt, coughing up blood like a bad action movie. Seeing this, the criminal realized he was way out of his league. Just as the monster was about to deliver the final smackdown, someone told him to quit playing hero before swooping in to save him from a squishy end. The dude was shook to see an influencer flying in for the rescue. The influencer was like, "Chill, I'm not here to save you, just want to be the first to take down these monsters." The dude tried to ask why, but his savior summoned some epic skeletons and launched them at the beasts. The skeletons went full-on boss mode, overpowering the black ogres. The half-naked dude was mind-blown by their moves, claiming they were way above your average necromancer. It made him wonder who was behind the mask. The black ogres were getting wrecked. Just like that, the skeletons wiped out the enemy army, leaving only one monster standing. The hero was like, time to send it to meet its fallen buddies. Before the showdown, he told his summons to get the half-naked dude out of the way, leaving him super curious. The monster stepped up, shaking the ground, but the young dude was unfazed. Haho Mask was now face to face with a level 80 Helm Ogre. Taking a good look at the final boss, someone in the R2 family doubted the influencer could handle it. The captain recognized it as a Toon family member, pointing out the monster's red and black eyes, a sign of corruption linked to the main quest. Corrupt monsters are like triple the power of their normal versions, so they doubted even the protagonist could take it on. But then, our hero dodged the beast's giant blade, earning some serious props for being better than its minions. The Tooned family member was like, "Dude, back off," as the ogre unleashed a mega attack. The player thought the influencer was toast, but nope, he charged up his blade, ready to counterattack. And just like that, a massive hole appeared in the ogre's stomach. Boom! The level 80 corrupt beast was down for the count, shocking everyone. Taking down the monster, the protagonist scored gold and enough XP to level up. He also snagged a piece of the monster's armor, completing the ranger's quest. Now, he just had to return to keep the adventure rolling. Yet now our hero had to figure out how to share the loot with the rest of the squad. After taking down 20 ogres and their shady boss, the haul was a small fortune. Usually the first attackers get to decide how to split the goodies. But this totally annoyed our hero, since he soloed all the monsters, so he planned to jump in only when everyone else was KO'd. And when the captain of R2 said he knew what it was like to be left hanging and help each other out, Hirkan felt those words hit deep, and acted on pure instinct. With that, the half-naked dude thanked their savior, which made him feel pretty good. Even so, the guy said they still had some business to settle. No shocker for our hero, since greed's like a leech in everyone's heart. But surprise, surprise, the players were bickering over who'd get the first selfie, which was kind of funny. He asked what was up, only to find out it was proof they fought with him. So when he asked about sharing the loot, the romantic paused for a second, then asked the other fam if they wanted a slice of the pie. But just as they were about to say yes, a hand landed on his shoulder. The captain of R2 flashed a sneaky grin, saying the Tooned fam had enough honor to let their savior keep all the loot, making him agree. So he turned to the hero and told him he had the right to keep everything for himself, romantically. This made him wonder what romance even meant to the R2 fam, since he couldn't wrap his head around it. Later, while heading back from the forest, the hero thought about the invite from his new buddy, saying that even though they were weak, they'd have his back if he ever needed them. Hirkan thought those players were kinda simple, but couldn't help thinking how fun it would be to game with them. Yet he knew that doing so would only slow him down from reaching his goal. The hero knew his mission was to take on the top guild solo. With that, he urged his summons to speed up, eager to finish this quest and start another. Meanwhile, I swear on the map of Warlord, a bear warrior had been taken down. The Thunder Hunters hyped up their master who took down the giant beast without breaking a sweat. Only then did her two sidekicks approach her. As Ha started hyping her up, the ballista told her he had two updates to share. First, there was a war brewing between the Triple Wing Guild and the Big Smile Guild, both leaderboard champs. The beef started when a Big Smile member picked a fight with someone from the other guild after a raid. After that, both sides spent big bucks and effort to take each other down, with Big Smile on the losing end. The Thunder Queen thought this beef was dumb since it was happening during the main quest, and as she hoped one side would crumble, she asked for the second update. The mage hesitated but spilled the beans, about how the masked influencer took down the Helm Ogre, taking the lead in the main quest. Hearing this, the lady grinned. This totally shocked her sidekick, who thought she'd be raging. With that, she told her crew to head to the range for another quest since their guild had to conquer the second chapter. Sometimes later inside Bangsu Castle, the great mage was super stoked to reunite with his grossed-out student. The teacher then explained that Ma Wong asked him to hand over a special item for completing his quest. The item was none other than the unique Ring of the Secret Order that boosts all stats, especially HP and mana restoration. Hirkan was kinda annoyed since this marked the end of his smooth journey. Back then, when meeting with the ranger, he immediately agreed to join the Secret Order. Ma Wong asked him to think it over since it was a risky gig. The hero confidently said he was ready to risk it all to fight evil, but really, he just wanted to join to snag that ring. Seeing the ranger's positive reaction, he assumed he was about to get the item right then and there, only to be totally shook because he had to go back to his master. Hirkan was all, "Explain yourself." So the ranger spilled the tea. The great mage was also in the secret squad and he'd be the one to hand over the ring. The main dude was horrified. He knew his master would demand a super embarrassing price for the ring, which turned out to be a cringe-worthy begging phrase. The master was totally confused when the student slammed his hands on the table to saying, "These tricks can't work every time." But our hero, being shameless, started begging for the epic item, making the mage crack up. And while he was mega embarrassed, the master gave him his next mission, saying his student needed to level up. So he sent him to a super special place that left Hirkan totally confused. It was none other than Warzone, and after some time, the young dude finally showed up. at the place in question. Warzone was wild, with endless monster waves constantly attacking the castle walls. It was more intense than regular raids, cause the attacks only happened for a short time, but on the plus side, you got rewards based on how many monsters you took down, which could make you rich. So, the new mission for our hero was to take out some Warzone monsters, with rewards based on their numbers. Even in his first life, our hero wanted to visit this place, but his teammates were against it, leaving him hyped. So, as he got ready, the spy hit up her boss, saying she found the masked influencer. Sometime later, players were getting wrecked, and just before the giant tiger could take down the third one, he started begging the guildmaster for mercy. The guildmaster called them out for not being able to beat a single newbie. The chubby dude in armor was Apollo, the guildmaster of the guild named after him. In front of this massive chunk of armor, the minion pointed at it, making his master furious as he tried to fix his mistake, saying the Thunder Queen's guild messed up their mission, causing it to fail, and they wanted to recruit the masked influencer, which made Apollo furious. He decided to take drastic measures, thinking the protagonist got cocky from all the attention from top guilds. So, with that, Heavy, an officer in Big Smile, got a call from the chubby one. The annoyed officer was like, "Why are you calling?" Apollo explained he wanted him to attack the masked influencer, which confused him since he was just a rising rookie. The chubby one angrily explained that the rookie attacked his guild members and didn't even apologize, calling it a huge insult to his name. Hearing this, the officer realized it was a petty issue, which annoyed him, and he was about to refuse, saying his guild shouldn't get involved. Apollo threatened to stop sponsoring Big Smile, reminding him that his money helped the guild reach elite status. He said if they couldn't meet his smallest demands, there was no reason to fund them. So, hearing this, Heavy Bean said he'd think it over and agreed to take on the masked influencer. And after cutting off communication with Big Smile, the officer started to panic. He complained that everyone was causing him problems, and accepting or rejecting would cost him too much. Only then did a helper show up, someone the man recognized. It was none other than a reserve affiliate of the guild, Cho Woo-rung, who pointed out the task was to eliminate the newbie. Seeing her, the officer realized giving her the task wouldn't hurt the guild's rep, since she wasn't officially part of it. Cho then explained she'd take on the task as she owed the officer a favor. So, she promised to take out the masked influencer. Meanwhile, our hero was pretty stoked, as the Warzone raid was about to kick off. All the players gathered in front of the gates, and at that moment, a firm axe was slammed into the ground by the NPC known as Bagel, the captain of the castle walls, who announced they'd start soon. Seeing the main NPCs pop up, the protagonist was stoked, explaining how they were about to dive into a gnarly zone packed with monsters. The captain laid it out, saying the gates would reopen in 6 days, and the reward would match the number of monsters they took down. He even threw in a reminder that the doors wouldn't budge until the 6 days were up. With that, he dropped the bomb that they'd get a super special mission beyond the walls. Their task? Take down a blue giant. This left the necromancer totally shook because the reward was a unique skill book. That gives the user a unique skill. Even in his first life, he'd only seen such rare items a handful of times. This made him realize. Now, this was a big deal, as he eyed the greedy players, all deciding to knock out the competition, starting with the strongest. And that was none other than the protagonist himself. Herkin realized that his fight against the blue giant was now small potatoes. So, as the gates were about to swing open, he braced himself and zoomed out at lightning speed to beat all the other players. Everyone was left gobsmacked by his sudden move. Realizing their plans had been busted, just as they were about to rush out solo, Cho Woo-rung suggested teaming up with everyone. A cocky hunter tried to mess with her, saying a newbie like her had no right to boss them around. And as he mockingly poked her forehead to shoo her away, she swiftly took him down and tossed him into the air, letting him crash to the ground as she asked why everyone was so stressed. Cho then figured it was all about the reward, explaining she was only there to take out the masked influencer. So she pitched them a deal, saying if they followed her lead, she'd hand over the skill book, seeing as they were too weak to snag it themselves. She called it a golden offer from their perspective. Seeing all his rivals hit the battlefield as a squad, our hero was super annoyed watching them all team up to take him down. He was especially ticked off because, on top of monster hunting, he had to watch out for the players too. So he cooked up a sneaky plan. Meanwhile, Cho Woo-rung was thinking how the numbers on her side would give her the upper hand. She started plotting her next move after taking out her target. Dreaming this win would finally let her join Big Smile after wowing the officer, she fantasized about having her own crew working under her. And what would happen next? Imagining she'd be worshipped like a goddess by her squad. Cho Woo-rung even thought she could turn them into her furniture, like cup holders or chairs. Only then did someone snap her back to reality. As the monsters started charging, leaving her pretty startled, Cho Woo-rung demanded her teammates brace themselves and focus on each monster one by one, only for one of them to say something was off. This wave had a crazy high number of monsters. This left her panicking and confused because there were just too many. Only then did she realize what was going down. Haoi Mask called out his rivals for ganging up on him and started banging the gong loudly to get back at them, laughing like a maniac. Cho Woo-rung was left stunned as her target started luring the monsters to them, and so the chaos began. The players were quickly getting overwhelmed by the monster swarm. One of them turned to the leader, saying they wouldn't last much longer, begging her to call for a retreat. Cho started thinking about how her plan was wrecked since the one she was supposed to ambush had flipped the script on her. With that, she urged her teammates to hold the line as long as possible, saying things would get better once the main event was over. Cho claimed she'd take on the influencer for them, but really she was just using them as a distraction to get to him. That's why she decided to take down the protagonist herself. And with that, the young dude teaching his skeletons how to properly bang felt something coming his way. And just like that, he got knocked off his giant golem. Cho Woo-rung then immediately challenged him to a one-on-one showdown. The mask grinned as he asked her if there was a reason behind this fight. Before pointing out she was the boss of the squad that wanted him toast while blocking her blade, he decided to ask her, "Do we know each other?" Because he couldn't remember her for the life of him. Hurkan pointed out how weird it was to see a stranger so eager to end him. The assassin wanted to keep her real motives hidden, so she claimed she just wanted to off him for better odds at snagging the reward. Upon hearing this, our hero called her bluff, because her face screamed she didn't care about the rare skill book. As he kept grilling her, the girl broke free and started throwing attacks like confetti. Seeing her moves were fire, the young dude ducked to dodge, then whipped out one of his bombs. Boom! A massive explosion, but the speedy one dodged it like a pro. This shocked the necromancer, who wondered why someone this skilled wasn't famous. He asked about her guild. Upon hearing this, Cho Woo-rung dared him to find out by fighting. And with that, the girl got ready for her own showdown. Seeing this, the protagonist realized she was about to go full beast mode. Holding back was tough, but taking her out too soon wouldn't reveal her guild. So she was a real pain. With that, he dared her to come at him. The lady accepted. Only then did she notice the bony audience behind her. Seeing her confusion, our hero explained his summons wouldn't crash their fight. This intrigued her, so she demanded an explanation. Hurkan pointed out he was all about that one-on-one combat life, and how summons are usually a no-go in those duels. Seeing this, Cho, who first thought her target was a shameless dude, started seeing him as a noble fool. Even so, she geared up, thinking this trait would be his downfall, and with that, she dashed forward, going for the win. Yet to her surprise, she was instantly blocked. The protagonist started teasing her, saying he didn't notice a difference after the showdown, only to then feel the assassin behind him. He barely dodged the deadly blade that nicked him. Our hero was shook by how fast she got. The lady said she wasn't done yet, then unleashed a rapid storm of cuts, which made him cough up blood and pain. And as he dropped to his knees, she couldn't help but joke about how he'd make a comfy chair in that position. With that, the assassin charged at her target, claiming he'd pay for ticking off Heavy Bean. Yet just as she was about to land the final hit, someone tripped her up. Scaly jumped in at the last second to save his master, leaving the girl super confused. She didn't see that coming. Upon hearing her boss's name, the young man cracked a grin, finally outing her as a Big Smile member. And before the lady could even blink, she was taken down by the powerful blade. Later, the assassin was tied to a giant pillar. Hurkan asked her why her guild was after him. At first, the girl refused to spill the beans, but when the hero called her by her real gamertag and pointed out her affiliation, she panicked and tried to deny it. But it was so obvious. Baffled Chid demanded to know how she was exposed. The young man gave a shady answer, but really, he knew her from rumors he'd heard in his past life. With that, he demanded again why the officer was trying to off him, seeing as he had no beef with Big Smile, but the girl just denied it, and asked to be taken out already. Yet, to her shock, her captor refused, saying it wouldn't be fair to take out someone as skilled as her. But really, he wanted her to suffer slowly, instead of letting her bounce back after 2 days. Seeing a blue giant had been spotted, the protagonist went on his way, threatening to really take her out if she ever came after him again. And so, as she was left tied up alone, Cho Woo-rung started thinking about how the mask exposed her tricks, and even managed to fool her. She struggled to read his madness, seeing how he let her live after all that went down. And so, after all this chaos, Cho Woo-rung was left thinking it was some kind of weird flirting session. "Hey, turn on," the assassin apologized via call, explaining to her boss why she totally flopped on taking out the target. Heavy Bean told her to chill out and take a break after the mission, as she apologized again, before hanging up. And with that, the officer started freaking out because even his top assassin couldn't handle the masked influencer. But he decided to shake off the bad vibes, saying he still had a shot since Apollo didn't know about the flop yet. Then the big guy called him up to roast him for losing to the masked influencer. He explained how their epic fail would spread faster than a cat meme, and pointed out how much of a disaster it would be if the public got wind of this. With that, Heavy Bean's soul practically left his body as he started blaming the protagonist. He then went on a rant, cursing him from the bottom of his heart, wishing him all sorts of bad luck. At that very moment, our hero got hit with a weird vibe. Now facing the giant beast, our hero started thinking about the wild journey ahead. And so, sometime later, he was totally wiped out. After finally taking down the level 85 monster, he complained it had way too much health for its level and took forever to beat. The protagonist started thinking he should be grateful to his enemies who basically caused their own downfall instead of stealing the kill. But then he decided to curse them anyway since they still attacked him. He then remembered his chat with the assassin, and started wondering why her guild wanted him gone, even though he hadn't crossed paths with them in this life. Back in his first life, when his guild was on the rise, the top guilds teamed up to take them down before they became a threat, with the big mastermind being the Thunder Hunters. This made him think that the hostility from Big Smile was her doing too. Even so, something felt off, and so, after thinking it over, the necromancer realized he didn't have the detective skills, so he decided to tackle it his way by smashing through all obstacles. 6 hours had already passed since he crossed the gate, and so it began. The protagonist decided to stack up some cash when the gate reopened. All hunters came in, super annoyed by their failure. The first guy started blaming the second, saying it was his fault for trusting the assassin since she set them up against the masked influencer. But just before a fight could break out, someone stopped them. It was none other than the masked influencer rolling into the city dressed as a rich Arab prince, leaving everyone confused. He then called them out for their judgy faces, before mockingly pointing out how they failed to slay a single monster after getting duped, leaving them super irritated. And as he kept laughing at them, the hidden lady watching him up close was more determined than ever, as she gazed at him with her dreamy eyes, to make him her new crush. At that moment, the young man got hit with a weird vibe. At that moment, the captain announced the MVP of the raid, revealing it to be our protagonist, and the necromancer was pretty stoked. Once in the office, everyone was hyping him up. The NPC was grateful to the player who wiped out most of the monsters, including the blue giant. He then explained how blue ice monsters had been popping up a lot lately, guessing they came from the ice mountain. But as he was asking the necromancer to check out the mountain, he realized this guy wasn't even paying attention. In reality, the reincarnation was super annoyed since he already knew this info, but when he heard about the reward, his mood did a 180, which didn't surprise the disappointed captain. But before handing over the reward, the NPC had to give him a letter from his teacher, urging him to head to the Urgel Mountains ASAP to meet up with the blacksmith wolf for the next task. Hurkan realized why he needed to level up since this new place was crawling with powerful monsters, but he didn't rule out the chance that this might be some kind of prank from his teacher. With that, the necromancer finally got his unique skill book. The NPC wanted to tell the player to handle the book with care, but realized there was no need after seeing him in action. With that, our hero instantly whipped out the item, curious about what epic skill he'd snag. Thinking anything would be a win, he slapped his hand on the book, crossing his fingers for some good luck. And just like that, the dude scored the skill called Clay Play. He was totally mind blown. Meanwhile, Chase Seolyan was in her usual rage mode, and the mage tried to chill her out, but she swung her blade like a boss, turning the landscape into a chaotic mess, leaving him freaked out. So, while the guy was shaking in his boots, the Thunder Queen started ranting about the randoms who popped up, and snatched her main quest monster, right from under the Thunder Hunters' noses. The lady demanded to know who these bold folks were. Ballista explained they weren't from the top guilds, but they must be pretty OP to stay under the radar. Hearing this ticked her off big time, so she slapped a bounty on their heads and told him to keep everyone away from their next raid. Chase Seolyan was shaking with rage, vowing to take down those who robbed her. Meanwhile, someone wondered if they made the right call. The mysterious player said he almost bit the dust trying to steal the Thunder Hunter's kill. The Snake Woman said they had no choice, given how speedy this guild was. He asked if wiping them out would be easier, but she explained that'd blow their cover, putting the group in a tight spot. The Glasses guy nodded, saying their main mission was to bring balance back to the game. Singlet reminded the Hands Guild members to stick to their true goal. The Spearman, Richard, decided to roll with it, along with Mikkel, the third guild member. The Giant Eyeball, Weaver, was on board too. Then the fifth member asked about the masked influencer, blaming the Glasses guy for everything. Momo said it was his slip-ups that let the protagonist level up so much. This ticked off Singlet, but he kept his cool, saying he'd take the heat after they stopped the strongest guilds. Mikkel said they should quit yapping and start their next mission. All the Hands Guild members were ready to enforce their master's will. The new skill of our hero, now at F proficiency, let him make new clay creatures from old ones, with stats boosting as proficiency climbed. Hurkan realized he could morph his golem into another beast. Seeing this, he started dreaming of flying dragons, or monsters to fight his battles. He was super hyped. So, he decided to test it out with the blue giant tooth, and when he used the material on his golem, the creature started to morph. The powerful process had the protagonist thinking he was about to score a giant as his new sidekick. But just as the hype hit its peak, some unexpected results popped up. Our hero struggled to wrap his head around it, as he stared at the dwarf he accidentally created thanks to his weak skill. Now, filled with frustration, he cursed the game again, blaming his bad luck. After reaching the Urgle village, the young man was still salty about what went down, realizing he shouldn't have expected to get a fat win, which was rare even at his best, using his F-rank skill. So, he decided to level up until it was finally worth it. With that, our hero opened his quest window to check, with a 1 in hand. Luckily, he already knew the NPC in question, a member of the Secret Order and the most famous blacksmith, NPC, and warlock. His genius led to many legendary artifacts that were super powerful. Even so, our hero never got to meet him, as he was only available for the main quest. Yet, as he stood in front of his workshop, he hoped for a shot at scoring some epic weapons from him. With that, he finally stepped inside, only to find the place totally empty. Just as he thought he was alone, something moved behind him. Hurkan quickly went on high alert, but still got blasted into the wall, feeling major pain as his life started slipping away. This left him super confused, as if he should be getting attacked in a noob zone, right? Then, boom, the attacker calls him out, saying he's weak sauce, claiming today's newbies are way too soft, like marshmallows. Turns out, it's the legendary blacksmith, comparing his era to the noobs. After a pause, our hero's like, "Yo, are you Wolf?" And when Wolf's like, "Yup," he asked why the sneak attack. Wolf's all, "Just testing your skills, bro." Our hero's fuming like, "Dude, NPCs shouldn't be attacking for a lame test." But then, bam, he gets 2 epic titles boosting his necro stats and life points. Our hero's mind equals blown. Just as the old dude's about to rant about impatient kids these days, the player suddenly goes, "I love you, man," leaving Wolf all, "Wait, what?" Our hero gets all touchy-feely, offering himself to the old dude he just met. Wolf's not having it, so he chucks a bag at him and kicks him out, orders him to deliver it to the forest, like, "Get out of here, Romeo." Outside, he's thinking, "This dude could mess me up anytime." But hey, he's a title jackpot, looking like a total mad lad to other players. And boom, new quest unlocked. It's called Wolf's Request, and it's all about delivering this pouch to Behind Forest peeps. Our hero's stoked cause the forest is elf central, but there's a catch. Elves aren't fans of humans. They hide in the forest, always on the move, like ninja squirrels. Maps to find elves were made in his first life, but not in this one. Elves, am I right? So, only one option left. Later, in the village square, a loud bang echoes. The masked dude's like, "I'll pay 100,000 gold for forest deets." Gossip starts, and our hero's face-palming. Shameless, but it's his only shot. Posting an ad would attract top guilds. So even though he hates it, he hunts for info in the village instead of the forest. Then, boom, an epic presence arrives. An aura so intense, everyone freezes. Our hero's no exception. A player with a giant lion shows up in the square. He instantly recognizes the masked influencer. Our hero's shook cause he knows him too. It's none other than Pitbull Singh. Everyone's amazed. He's one of the top 100 players. The crowd's buzzing, wondering why he's here. Then they guess he's here to challenge the famous influencer who fought him in his past life. Even though he won, Hurkan struggled against Singh's epic skills, so he's unsure of the outcome if they throw down now. The crowd's debating the odds, some rooting for the mask, others pointing out Pitbull's overleveled, earning his name by wrecking foes. Makes sense. And as nearby players say he'd get wrecked in a fight, the mask's getting heated. But as he bursts out, Skeleton's trying to hold him back. Pitbull's like, "Yo, I'm here for forest info." Our hero's surprised. The ranker spills all he knows about the forest. Feeling wary, the young dude's like, "What do you want in return?" Pitbull's all chill and says he wants to declare his flame. Our hero's mind equals blown again. Everyone's amazed too, cause it seems like the giant's confessing his love to the hero. Soon after, the necromancer's catching his breath, demanding answers. But Pitbull's like, "Chill first," and blames him for the chaos, pointing out how declaring his love to him shook the whole town, which is why they had to bolt to escape the rest of the players. And before Pitbull could explain himself, the young dude cut him off. to reject his love, saying he was straight. And so after an awkward silence, Banker demanded an explanation, since he had just confessed to the main guy. Upon hearing this, the mask was super confused. A few months back, while doing his usual forest hunting, something suddenly caught Ranker's eye, which turned out to be an adorable little bunny. At that moment, a voice spoke to the creature. It was pure chance that the human stumbled upon the earth. He called her the purest and most beautiful of all. Yet just as he was about to make a move, she suddenly bolted like she was escaping something, leaving no trace behind. After this whole thing, the player waited months for the NPC, leaving the necromancer totally puzzled. He even called him a stalker, seeing how he went all out gathering info about the forest from NPCs and players alike. It was then explained that despite visiting all the spots mentioned by the villagers, he couldn't find the elves. And just as he was about to give up, he bumped into our main guy who wanted forest intel, which is why he turned to him for help, explaining everything to the necromancer. Even so, he was super annoyed because the whole mess could have been avoided with a simple chat instead of a confession. He knew this would be a major headache to deal with. Yet seeing how Pitbull was the only one who knew about the forest, he asked the giant to guide him to the spot where elven activities were most likely, leaving him pretty stoked. Later on, after reaching the waterfall, he explained that this was the spot where elves were most likely to pop up, according to the locals. And as he started listing other places they might show up, the necromancer was getting tired of the endless chatter. Hirkin then started thinking about the locals, and so he asked his buddy if monsters hung out at the waterfall, which he confirmed. He even grinned upon hearing that big monsters showed up near the waterfall. It was then asked if the man had a clue, so he said he'd start this quest, like always, by taking down a monster. At that moment, a giant level 90 tree bark snake appeared. Pitbull suggested handling the beast, but our hero insisted he'd take it on. The ranker had doubts, seeing how tough this creature was. The main guy reminded him who he was, as he was none other than Heiho Mask, who charged headfirst at the monster. With that, the snake launched its attack. Yet the hero didn't flinch, as it kept coming at him full speed. And with that being said, the tree snake managed to knock back the famous influencer, sending him flying into the dirt. Pitbull, who saw it all, was totally baffled. He went to check on his buddy. This one immediately pretended to be in agony. Ally and enemy alike were confused by the sudden act. And so, as the ally demanded an explanation, the enemy took the chance and attacked. Upon seeing this, the strong one urged the influencer to dodge. Yet Hirkin kept yelling that he was about to meet his end. Only then was an arrow shot, hitting the monster right in the neck. The creature was then bombarded with a storm of the same kind of projectile. Pitbull was blown away by what he saw. Heiho Mask explained that non-player characters don't fight monsters like players, as they just freak out and run when danger shows up, which is why when NPCs have nowhere to go, heroes make their entrance, which were none other than the elves. Pitbull asked the main guy if this was part of his plan, so he explained he was just winging it. And just like that, the humans finally met the elves they were after. With that, the necromancer decided to turn on the charm as he greeted the elf and claimed he was sent by the blacksmith. Yet just as he explained he needed to enter their village to complete a task, an arrow was aimed at his face. The elves accused him of being a liar, leaving him baffled. One of them pointed out how humans aren't trustworthy, as she began to call out the mask's greedy and shameless traits he already had. He was super ticked off, seeing the elves totally doubted he was sent by Wolf. He started plotting to use force to get his way, but then realized, that'd totally wreck his quest, only to end up with his buddy dropping to his knees. Hirkan was all confused as his friend apologized for fibbing, saying it was needed to reunite. He spoke to the elves he'd met in the forest before, and said he'd been crushing on her since that day. And with that, he reached out to the maiden, and asked if they could get to know each other better. Hirkan started freaking out, thinking his buddy would be labeled a stalker by the elves, who hated their kind, but she said yes, leaving him totally mind-blown. The elf, Celine, decided not to punish the human since he did it all for love, while her friends teased her about it. And just like that, Pitbull got an invite to the Alpha Village. Seeing this, the miserable main dude couldn't help but laugh, and he cursed this game again from the depths of his soul, his echo bouncing off the mountains in total solitude. And just like that, our hero completed the quest from the legendary blacksmith. Later, on the way, the necromancer started whining about the game turning into a dating sim. His friend said he could finally die worry-free, but our hero couldn't care less. He immediately started roasting, saying he was too happy for someone accepted by someone who tried to kill him, claiming beauty comes with madness. Hirkin then shared a story of a past crush, prettier than the elf, who was a total nutcase, and he liked her not for her looks. Veer Anchor explained he wasn't into elves for their beauty, but saw them as symbols of wonder. Hearing this, Hirkan instantly thought his new friend was a creep, only for him to deny it. Pitbull explained that as a kid, in every game and story, elves and dark elves always played a big part. He said adventuring into magical realms, with such creatures, was always his dream. Our hero struggled to see the link between his words and his confession to the elf, only for his friend to ask if he felt the same. Pitbull wanted to know if the mask played the game to chase that dream, but he denied it, saying his goal was to be the strongest and get revenge on those who wronged him. The young man even said he gets hyped just imagining their defeated faces, but according to Pitbull, this would make him just like the people he hated. The mask grinned, saying he didn't care, as in this world, the weak are usually prey for the strong, and so the powerful player said, based on that logic, the humiliation our hero faced was actually normal, and as he kept talking about happiness, he got suddenly punched in the face and slammed to the ground. The angry necromancer grabbed him by the collar, saying happiness and dreams only belong to those who have something to start with. He then asked if he knew the torment one suffers to survive a single day, and the feeling of losing everything in a heartbeat. Our hero knew the guy was trying to teach him a lesson, and yet, as Hirkin revealed himself from behind the mask, he told him to stop. This left the powerful player totally confused. At that moment, one of the elves yelled at the humans to stop fighting. At that moment, our heroes finally reached the elf village known as Baheim, and just as the alpha was about to show them their leader's spot, our hero asked her to guide him there. And as he walked away, Celine asked her new crush if he and his friends were on bad terms, but he didn't answer. Later on, the protagonist was brought to Elder Dr. The elves said he was there on behalf of Wolf. Hirkin was thinking about how he'd started a fight with Pitbull, deciding to brush it off since he wouldn't deal with him anymore, so he focused on finishing the quest. At that moment, someone entered the room. This was none other than the big boss of the village, Dra, who spotted the human as part of the secret squad, seeing he was sent by the blacksmith. Our hero, all cool and collected, whipped out the pouch and handed it to the elf to wrap up the quest. But when the old dude opened it, the necromancer's poker face totally changed. The pouch had the purification circlet, an epic item that wipes out all bad vibes. Seeing the item, he got why the blacksmith told him to keep it shut. Only then did the young dude have a light bulb moment. The next quest was to squash the corruption of some elves and find the final boss of Chapter 2. And by doing that, he'd finally snag the powerful epic item. Only then did the elder give him the boot. He freaked out, asking if there was another mission, like a rescue gig, but got a big nope. Hearing the elder say he was too weak for any task, the player realized he needed to level up to unlock missions. He hit this snag in Chapter 1 but couldn't ditch the main quest again and was too weak for the Bobor Forest. So, he made up his mind to head back to the elf leader after his training arc. While battling monsters, the protagonist thought about how tough life was for him. He and his summons were in endless battles. Hirkin was ticked off that the Thunder Hunters were zooming through the main quest. They might have already hit Urgle Mountain and wouldn't need to slay 5 monsters anymore. He realized he was too chill and should have gone all out to hit level 100. Yet he wondered if it was already too late for him. Seeing the master's mood, the Skelly got worried about him. It remembered the words of the powerful player and got super mad. It lashed out at the monsters. Only then did his sword slip from his hand. At that moment, monsters charged at him. This left him super annoyed. The protagonist was wiped out. The monsters attacked him fiercely, aiming to chomp his head off. Meanwhile, with the cute rabbit, Pitbull was explaining the beef with his friend to his new girlfriend, saying it was his fault. Seeing how worried he was, the elf smiled and suggested he apologize sincerely, saying it wasn't hard to do, as it's what friends do for each other. And just before the monster could bite the necromancer's head off, it got punched in the face, leaving the hero stunned. Pitbull said he was there to say sorry and had perfect timing. Hirkin was shocked by the sudden arrival as he was on the brink of death, too tired to fight. Right before he could become Monster Chow, an unexpected savior popped up out of nowhere. This one was there to apologize, claiming his timing was spot on. The young man struggled to wrap his head around what was happening. Once the beast was down, the tall one tried to speak, but the short one cut him off. He saw the sudden arrival with total confidence as a challenge for a fight, so he unleashed his mad skeletons at him, telling him to scram. And as the murder summons charged at the man, he stayed chill and apologized for his mistake. Hearing this, the protagonist immediately halted the attack, just in time, as the skeletons were inches from his neck. Pitbull explained he meant no harm, and it was a mistake to talk about the protagonist's situation without knowing squat. That's why he apologized again. The necromancer then said as a peace offering, the man had to help him farm. Pitbull took it as a sign of forgiveness, only for the necromancer to say he was going to work him to the bone. This cheeky reaction left the powerful one stunned, then he grinned. And just as the duo was about to start bickering again, savage beasts charged at them, so the two of them clenched their fists tight before punching the troublemakers away. And just like that, the monsters were toast, letting the ranker snag some sweet XP. Alright, buckle up, cause this is gonna be a wild ride. Our hero just leveled up, boom, next level unlocked. A few levels later, the dude was totally wiped out, but hey, he hit level 100. Both of them were like, whoa, we've been grinding way too hard. Especially the necromancer who was like, never skipping sleep again. So Pitbull was like, peace out, and logged off. Hirkin started thinking, man, I wouldn't have hit my goal without my new buddy, even though it was kinda awkward. He turned to the ranker, trying to say thanks, but acting all tsundere, he couldn't spit it out. He was like, dude, this is embarrassing for guys, before logging off. Left alone on a burn, his skeletons had to chill him out as he raged. Back at the elven village, the elder saw the necromancer finally ready. Draw was like, here's an epic item, cause words don't work on corrupted dudes. The elder noticed the necromancer, full of dark vibes, was kinda spaced out. Our hero kicked off the corrupted elf quest, snagging the purification circlet. The elder was like, whoa, mood swings much? So he decided to handle it himself. Hirkan, wanting to finish the quest fast to keep the loot, asked about the corrupted elves. But, plot twist, the elder had no clue. He was like, dude, I'd tell you if I knew. So, he left the detective work to the protagonist, who was like, gimme a hint at least. The dude started cursing the game, cause starting with Nada is unfair. In the big world of warlocks, finding corrupted elves was like finding a needle in a haystack. He was like, seriously, more problems after level 100? So, he had one option, hunt for intel again. But it wasn't gonna be easy. His last trick wasn't super effective, and announcing corrupted elf would attract all the rivals. Still, he wasn't sweating it. He had a plan. Since corrupted elves spawn monster armies, it made sense that monsters would be nearby. So, if the necromancer sent out messages wanting new monster spots, people would unknowingly bring him the intel, which would help him pinpoint the corrupted elf's location. Later, he was patting himself on the back for being a genius. Someone asked if he was the monster hunter, and he thought he caught his first fish. But surprise, he was face to face with a familiar shark. The leader of the Red Bulls. Back at his base, Yell had something to spill. She asked if he remembered the anonymous tip about the corrupted count's location. He was like, whoa, as she explained the center was active again, this time claiming to buy new monster spots. This made them wonder about the mystery man's plans, but the guildmaster knew it was a trick. He said anyone knowing the first main boss's location must have their own plans at this quest stage, which made sense to her. So, Shev explained the mystery man was using monsters as a cover for something else. Yell was super hyped. She grabbed his face, saying they'd be unstoppable with this info. Matador agreed. He kissed her hand and went on his way, off to find the main quest informant who knows everything. The protagonist was confused. He just wanted to snag info from some low-level player, but suddenly the hunter became the hunted. So, he decided to put his genius plan on hold. Yeah, he tried before he could make his move. He felt this crazy pressure, like a giant thumb pressing down on him. The guildmaster figured out the young dude was trying to bail, and he was super annoyed, telling his crew to chill and stop their attack. Shev thought this was genius, cause everyone would have been toast if a blade touched him. Our hero was bummed but knew he couldn't take on the Red Bull's boss. Shev then said the hero was too OP for a newbie, with info even the big guilds didn't have. So he demanded to know who this guy really was. And our hero started talking, leaving the big guy all puzzled. Then he started yelling, saying he was just a noob getting bullied by the Red Bulls. He paused to eye the tall dude, then went back to his dramatic sobbing. Seeing no reaction from Matador, the hero wondered if his act was working. He prayed his fib would be epic, and was stoked when the guy said he and the informant were different people. But just before the informant could keep up the act, he heard something about a 5 million signing bonus. Matador wanted to give this sweet cash to the informant to join them, but right before the guy could bounce, Hirkan said he always wanted to join their guild, and just as the title was about to change, Skelly was like, nope. In reality, the hero was eyeing the tall guy for the bonus, saying he couldn't be bought, but his face said, maybe? Even so, the necromancer was tempted, cause he could buy all the beef he wanted. With that, the guildmaster turned to the mask, asking if he'd take the offer if he were the informant, but he was like, nah. Matador said refusing meant he was a rival to be crushed, showing off his power, but the necromancer was chill, saying no again, claiming he didn't need help to be the strongest, even if it meant getting wrecked. The guy was shook hearing this. Hahohi Mask then said he'd wipe out the Red Bulls once he was the strongest. But the guildvester just turned around to admire the view, leaving him confused. The young dude demanded answers, so the guy changed the Red Lake's name. Matador said their intel team found monster spawns were off the charts there. The necromancer was puzzled. "'Cause why share this with a rival?" The guildmaster said he didn't see a kid like him as a real threat, telling him to stay humble, 'cause his guild was the best and would stay on top. Matador explained he shared the info to reward him for going solo, and with that, he bounced. Hearing this, our hero pointed to the salt, saying that's where the Red Bulls were stuck in the main quest. Herkin then snapped at the guy, saying he wasn't a kid and had way more gaming XP. Hearing this, the guy cracked up, and as the mask asked why, Matador said, "Our hero must get called a moron a lot and falls for scams, making his blood boil. He couldn't take it anymore, and our furious hero started yelling at him. And just like that, the skeletons left with their angry master. Chev hit him up right away, saying he failed his scouting mission, claiming he chickened out seeing the informant's reaction, thinking he'd die if he went further. Matador even said he wanted to see how far the young dude could go solo, but as he tried to play it cool, Yell was not having it and yelled at him on the phone, so much that his boss punished him when he got back to base. Later, where the water was red, the necromancer, now in a new spot, was still salty about the guildmaster calling him an idiot. He got super annoyed watching these skeletons just chilling in the red water while he was out here grinding for success. So, he yelled at them to quit goofing off and get moving, when suddenly, boom, flashback time. Back to his first life, where his so-called friends asked him to join them in the water, but he was like, nah. He warned them the Red Lake was crawling with level 120 monsters, so they needed to start farming ASAP. But before he could finish, his friends splashed him with water and started teasing him for being a game addict. And just like that, the future necromancer was off, chasing down the traitors. He realized he had some serious memories tied to this Red Lake, but just as he was about to give his skeleton crew the lowdown, he got totally spooked as something zoomed his way. Turns out it was a squad of 4 sprinting towards him. He thought it was a sneak attack when he saw the different roles of these strangers. So, he told his skeletons to brace themselves and get ready to attack on his signal. The countdown began and the skeletons stood ready for action, but before the battle could even kick off, both summoner and summoned were left scratching their heads as the supposed attackers bowed before them. At first, he was like, what the heck is going on? But then got even more confused when these players suddenly asked for his help. A bit later, the squad explained to the necromancer how they needed his support to take down a corrupted gray cockatrice. Before he could ask why they weren't hunting the monster solo, they explained they were part of the 2nd division of the Golden Brothers, a pretty respectable guild, but they were basically the guild's misfits. The hero got bored and told the guy to sum up the whole situation in 3 sentences. After gathering his thoughts, he briefly asked for help to stay in their guild, only to get a big fat nope. The squad immediately threw themselves at his feet, annoying him as they begged for help. They even offered to pay him. Our greedy necromancer asked about the price. When he heard it was just 20,000 gold, he refused and tried to bounce. The 4 of them started crying even harder, promising to let him take all the loot from the monster. Despite the annoying situation, Herkin knew he was there to deal with the corrupted monsters too. So, he agreed to their terms, but told them to stick to the deal. With that, the 2nd division cried tears of joy, thanking the masked hero from the bottom of their hearts. But as he started to walk away, the squad showed their true colors. Back then, they begged someone else. The 4 of them asked the Lord for more time, to pay back what they owed at Apollo's slave farm, where a weirdly dressed rabbit man whipped people who couldn't pay up. The guildmaster thought it over for a second and decided to give them another shot to clear their debt. But joy turned to disappointment when they were tasked with taking down the masked influencer. They said they couldn't possibly defeat someone that powerful, so the 3rd guy decided to give them some epic gear. Seeing how he just wanted the protagonist, no matter the method, he even said if they failed, they'd never leave the slave farm again. That's why the 2nd division was totally cornered. They decided to wait for the moment their helper got too focused on the enemy, so they could catch him off guard. Then it happened, leaving the weaklings shaking in their boots. A giant bird-like monster showed up. The mighty level 120 corrupt gray cockatrice roared at its enemies. While our hero compared the loud beast to a giant chicken, the priest told him to wait for his signal before attacking. Herkin said he'd handle the monster's armor to create an opening for the squad, leaving them grateful and pumped. With that, he psyched himself up, activated his power-up skill, and launched himself at the giant chicken at full throttle. His launch was so epic, it almost blew his teammates away. The 2nd division was left speechless watching the masked hero take on the monster head-on, seeing how its specialty was ranged attacks, using its feathers. The protagonist dodged those incoming projectiles like a pro, before leaping into the air, and positioning himself above the giant bird, leaving it totally shook. The player was super stoked seeing how, unlike his first life, the creature was slow as a sloth. And with that, he delivered a powerful blow with his blade. He kept attacking the creature's metallic shell, with it being too slow to react. The necromancer then remembered his own words about the monster being too slow, and what happened next left everyone gobsmacked. He managed to smash the armor of the corrupted Grey Cockatrice. Hirkan pulled off this epic move all by himself. The dude was amazed he didn't even break a sweat. Hirkan then pointed out how only the monster's helmet was still hanging on, before charging at it to deliver the final blow. But just then, the guy gave the signal. The second division showed its true colors by launching a sneaky fireball. This sudden move caught our hero off guard. And boom, a giant explosion happened. The warrior then told the mages to hit him with the spell again. And as soon as this one landed, he ordered the launch of the third spell, followed by a fourth attack. With nothing moving, the second division started wondering if they had nailed their target, but just as they started celebrating, thinking their slave days were over, they were hit with horror as they heard the voice of the necromancer. Hirkan pointed out he had suspected their betrayal from the start, since despite claiming to be broke, they all had some pretty fancy weapons. They even made a mage-type player like him charge ahead, so he said he was glad he took precautions. By using skin stitching, that great alien boosted his armor, and a fake heart boosted his health points, before using boiling blood to heal up faster. And so, by using this combo, our protagonist, who had a slot on as well, was left untouched. With that, he told the traitors he couldn't care less about their crew. So our hero told them to brace themselves, as he was ready to take them down.